So guys, what if Naruto was Black Dragon Emperor and Ophis is slave in High School Special movie? What do you want? A cool voice could be heard in a dark tunnel, light footsteps nearing the end of the tunnel, a throne could be seen with a young man sitting on it. He has long dark blue hair, his eyes have black circles around him, he is light-skinned and has purple and dark markings on his body. He isn't wearing a chest, you could see his muscles, the only clothing he has is a pair of black pants and black shoes. The young looks to be bored, like he could kill himself just for fun. When are we going to that forbidden place we call home? The voice sound deep and a bit rough, a voice not fitting the young man, if he was a man. Tisk, in a few days still have a loose ends to tie up, said the cool voice. By that you mean to burn the temple to the ground? The young man shakes his head. Your hate is growing to the point it could become a physical being. Those monks have something I need and I ain't leaving without it, even if it means I'll have to obliterate them to reach my goal, the cool voice said with a bit of bloodlust in his tone. My hate is nothing compared to the pain I'll cause on those who head up. You should know that, Acknowledgia. Yes, I know that, Naruto. You better keep the end of your deal the now, Acknowledgia say. Acknowledgia, the dragon said, to rival Ophis and Big Red with power. No one had the power to control him. He's feared by God himself, created by chaos, war, hate, pain, anger and any other negative power. Yay, we both benefit from the deal, so I want things up, Naruto said. Naruto has blonde, the style like Sting Euclif. He has icy blue eyes that could freeze hell. He is wearing a long white shirt, on top of it is a black winter coat with white fur, with skinny gray pants and black Vans. Around his neck is a Jashin necklace, on his back is triple blade scythe. He has black earrings. In total he looked like a man who could steal your girl with a single look. You can leave, I can't stand your ugly face, Acknowledgia says. Before Naruto could remark, he was pushed out of his minscape. Outside, Tisk, overgrown lizard. Naruto opens his. Looking down on the cliff he could see a temple with a statue of monk in the middle of the golden doors. Time to get my prize, said Naruto with a smirk on his face. I hope there won't be any sinners because it's Judgment Day. Jumping of the cliff with his eyes closed, falling in a peaceful manner as he nears the ground, he grabs his scythe and two black dragon wings appear on his back as he descends to the ground. Below, a few monks look up and could see a person coming looking like the Grim Reaper. This better be interesting, Acknowledgia responded as his wings shone dark purple as his partner spoke to him. Naruto smiled at that as he continued towards Japan. Albion was a good partner and he could not have asked for a better dragon residing in his sacred gear. Naruto, do you sense that? Yeah. Naruto replied, his eyebrows raised as his head stayed looking in Japan's general direction and a larger smirk formed on his face. Though the energy signature was weak, Naruto was certain it was Diedrich in the boosted gear. Looks like we finally found the red one, Acknowledgia? Tisk, nothing to pique my interest, Acknowledgia responded in a bored-filled tone. His host is weak, such a weak signature is nothing compared to mine. The only reason we found his energy source was due to erected dome. Without it we could not have found him. Such a weak energy signature we could have easily passed by without knowing it was him. I think you were getting over yourself, Naruto commented as he returned his attention to flying. Besides, he is not our rival. How could I not? Acknowledgia questioned with an amused tone. With you as my partner we could surpass all and I can finally destroy Great and become the Black Dragon God. Releasing a sigh, Naruto kept flying, but he could not help but smirk at Acknowledgia's words of pride. Though it seemed like the Black Dragon was ignoring his other statement. Over the years, Acknowledgia and him had developed a relationship built solely on pride. Naruto had allowed Acknowledgia to control his body when it was needed and allowed him to control the flow of power he would receive from the dragon. Acknowledgia in return was always giving him power that was needed and worked with him as an equal. Dragons were prideful creatures that did not bow to anything lower than their existence, but Acknowledgia had acknowledged Naruto and thus they were equals in their partnership. It was shocking how much Acknowledgia enjoyed such a partnership. It seemed as if Naruto was a few of the humans that received his respect as well. Rias Gremory held the appearance of a beautiful young woman in her late teens with white skin, blue eyes and a buxom figure. Her most distinctive feature was her long beautiful crimson hair that reached down to her thighs, with a single strand of hair standing up, and also her hair had loose bangs covering her forehead and side bangs framing her face. Being a Gremory, she had not been exposed to many situations in which she felt actual fear, but here she was with her peerage helpless before one of the leaders of Grigori. Her peerage consisted of many members. There was Akano, her queen, Yuto, her knight, Kaneko, her rook, and Issei, her pawn. Akano was a beautiful young woman with a voluptuous figure around the same age as Rias, with very long black hair and violet eyes. Her black hair was usually tied in a long ponytail, which reached down to her legs with two strands sticking out from the top and sloping backwards. With the orange ribbon keeping it in place, she had on a shrine maiden's outfit. Yuto held the appearance of handsome young man with short blonde hair, gray eyes, and a mole under his left eye. He was wearing the Kuo Academy uniform without the blazer. Kaneko held an appearance of a petite girl with white hair and hazel eyes. The front of her hair had 2 long bangs going past her shoulders and several loose bangs hanging over her forehead, while her back has a short bob cut. She too was wearing the female Kuo Academy uniform. Issei, the final and newest member of Rios peerage, stood at average height with short brown hair and light brown eyes. He liked Kiba wore the school uniform, but he had on the blazer. There were others fighting against Kokabiel as well. Xenovia Quarta, a young woman with chin-length blue hair with a green fringe on the right side and dark yellow eyes. She wore her church battle outfit, which consisted out black skin tight short-sleeved unitard with pauldrons, matching her fingerless gloves and thigh-high leather boots. Dressed similarly was her partner Irina. Irina was a beautiful young woman with long chestnut hair and violet eyes. Her hair was tied back into twin tails. Their opponent was Kokabiel himself, a leader of Grigori. Kokabiel held the appearance of a young man with black hair. Unlike other fallen angels, he had pointy ears, dressed in a black robe with accessories. It allowed his 5 pair of wings to be shown freely. Kokabiel was amused by those pitiful worms that were trying to oppose him. It was very amusing indeed. His plan was so close to success. All he had to do now was kill the pathetic worms standing before him now, and he could have another war. In the previous war, they could have won if it was not Azazel's intervention, but now he could start another one in which the fallen angels would win against both angel and devil. From here on out, I will start a war. I will take your heads as a gift. Even if it's only me, I will continue from where we left off. I am going to show Sirzex and Michael that we, the fallen angels, are the ultimate beings. Kokabiel shouted in glee as an insane fit of laughter escaped his lips. Everyone present just looked at him in horror. Their loves were going to end here, and a war was going to break out because of the insane fallen angel. War. Finally we can have war once more. Raising his arms above his head, Kokabiel formed a massive spear of light that dwarfed his entire figure, and in comparison he was an ant. Looks of horror all formed on everyone's face as they could only stare at the massive spear pointing towards them. Death was what waited for them. It was hopeless now to fight against something so massive in size, that it could easily vaporize them by touch. Before Kokabiel could even launch the spear, the dome that was erected around them keeping Kokabiel from destroying Japan was shattered and a figure shrouded in purple light descended onto the ground. It can't be. Diedrich shouted in shock. What is it, Diedrich? Issei asked as he looked at his sacred gear in confusion. Is it that guy over there? Be careful around him, Issei. That is the host of the Black Dragon, Diedrich answered. It seems that the Black One's host is stronger than what I imagined him to be. Who the hell are you? Kokabiel shouted his question at Naruto, who had stowed away his sacred gear, and the light that once surrounded him died down and he stood there in his regular attire. I am Naruto Namakai's. Naruto responded as he looked at Kokabiel with a calculative look on his face. Namakai's isn't that the name of that bastard I had killed? Kokabiel asked in a mocking tone. A sneer was on his face as a laugh escaped his lips, that look on his face when he tried to save with the baby. Ha ha ha. Too bad Azazel didn't declare war when that happened, but it wasn't a waste of time. I got to see those pathetic humans desperately try to save themselves. Ha ha ha. Those feathers, Naruto murmured as his eyes widened in shock before they shifted into ones of rage. His pupils shrunk as his eyes took on a fierce look, similar to one of a dragon's. A pair of white dragon wings shot from his back and a death glare was sent at Kokabiel. Those hideous feathers were yours. Ha ha ha. You finally figured it out. Kokabiel gave another fit of maniacal laughter. Finally I can kill you and complete my list of Namakis. I am gone. Rip your wings, Naruto shouted in rage as his wings shone with power and he flew into the air. Kokabiel didn't have a chance to throw his spear as a fist connected with his jaw and sent him flying away. Destroy. Destroying power from his spear, Naruto felt his power rise to new levels as he directed his gaze at Kokabiel, who had recovered from his punch and was glaring at Naruto with hate-filled eyes. How dare you hit you? You filthy human. Kokabiel shouted in rage as he flew towards Naruto and a sword made of light appeared in his hands. Naruto didn't even bat an eyelash as he encased his arm in wind magic and grabbed hold of Kokabiel's blade. I am going to clip your filthy wings, you crow. Naruto yelled as he added more force to his grip on the light sword and shattered it into tiny particles of light before sending a punch at Kokabiel's stomach. Not relenting, Naruto formed a Rasengan in his other hand and slammed it on Kokabiel's back. The result of his actions sent Kokabiel plummeting down towards the ground. Before Kokabiel could reach the ground, Naruto rushed down towards him. but before he could reach him Kokabiel recovered enough to send a barrage of light spears towards him. Weaving through the spears, Naruto was forced back as more and more shot towards him. Kokabiel proceeded to create a larger and more destructive spear as he shot it towards Naruto, who had finished dodging the spears and turned to face another one flying towards him. Raising his hand, Naruto split the beam in half as he drained the energy from the attack and filled up his barely used reserves. His previous uses of magic barely used any of his magical power, thus excess magic filled his system. Acknowledgia, expel the extra magic. You got it. Acknowledgia responded as the destroy dividing shone brighter and black magic particles were released from his wings and they fluttered in the air around Naruto. Oh ho. It seems like you found the one with those filthy wings, partner. Why don't we show them the power of supremacy? Let us them. Acknowledgia, Naruto said as he crossed his arms and he was consumed by a purple light, vanishing dragon balance breaker. Finish this crow and show him what true power is. Albion said with a bloodlust-filled tone as Naruto nodded his head in acknowledgement and began the change into his armor. Once the light died down, Naruto had black dragon armor formed around him with purple jewels decorating it. In this form, it boosted his speed, power, durability, and allowed him to use his power of destroy without the 10-second limit. Though temporarily it was still a very useful ability that it granted him. Looking at Kokabiel through his helmet, Naruto channeled all the rage and frustration that he had felt towards his family's demise and charged forward. His goal was Kokabiel's head. Kokabiel was not the only one shocked by Naruto's new form. Issei and the others were as well. To see a completed balance breaker was shocking enough as it was the forbidden stage that all sacred gears possessed, but to seeing it used was not as shocking, but the power that was emitted during the transformation was what brought out their shock. Issei was most shocked out of them all. His destined rival was able to achieve something that he could not even muster at his condition now. What else was Naruto Uzumaki capable of? Prepare yourself, Kokabiel. Naruto responded as he rushed forward, but Kokabiel had already planned a way of attack as another barrage of light spears flew towards him. Vanishing from the position he was once situated, Naruto appeared before Kokabiel with a raised fist and slammed it against his face. Following up his former attack, Naruto punched Kokabiel once more with his other fist. Kokabiel retaliated with a punch of his own, but Naruto caught it before it could reach his face and began crushing his hand. Screaming in pain, Kokabiel formed a light sword in his free hand and sent it towards Naruto, who caught it with his other hand. Adding pressure to both hands, Naruto heard the familiar sounds of bones being crushed as Kokabiel's screams gotten louder and his blade shattered into tiny shards of light-based magic. Clenching his fist, Naruto punched Kokabiel back once more. This time Kokabiel was prepared for this as he drew a blade and went to stab him. Releasing his hold of Kokabiel, Naruto leaned back and allowed the blade to come forward. Luckily enough, he was able to dodge fast enough for the blade to reach its limited range and stop a little ways before reaching him, but that did not stop Kokabiel as a kick was planted against his chest and Naruto was pushed backwards for a good distance before he recovered and charged at Kokabiel. Like his previous attempts to charge him head first, he was met with another barrage of light spears. This time Naruto did not bother to dodge them as he took the attacks head-on. But they did not even touch him as multiple magic circles appeared where the light spears were supposed to hit. Using the magic he was collecting from the light spears, Naruto compressed the collected magic into a wave of lightning that shot out from his body and moved towards Kokabiel, who was busy preparing another massive spear of light. This time he succeeded in its creation and use as Kokabiel threw it straight at Naruto, who raised his hand. Destroy. The familiar sensation of his magic coursing through his entire body was felt once again as Naruto raised his hand and a basketball-sized sphere of purple magic formed in his palm and soon wind began swirling around it and the sphere turned into a large Fuma shuriken with the sphere in the middle. This was his Rasen shuriken. A buzzing sound was emitting from his technique. Throwing the deadly technique forward, it flew straight for Kokabiel. Kokabiel merely leaned to the right avoiding Naruto's Rasen shuriken. But he did not expect it to expand and a massive dome of wind blades consumed him entirely. The only two ways for Naruto to use his Rasen shuriken was through senjutsu and when he donned his scale mail. Having some sort of protection against the blades of wind that formed around the Rasengan, allowed him to use that technique to its fullest. If he had used it without senjutsu or his scale mail, his hand would have been easily gone from his body as the wind blades were too close and could easily damage him. Such an attack was powerful. It damaged people caught in its radius was at a cellular level, easily damaging nerves and possibly the ones caught in its range's ability to use magic. Once Kokabiel was seen again, his dome of wind blades had vanished, leaving behind a heavily damaged Kokabiel. Though Kokabiel could barely keep himself in the air, he was not willing to let the blonde win. He needed this war to prove his dominance. Panting heavily, Kokabiel could not even retaliate when Naruto appeared behind him and grabbed hold of his wings. Looking at Naruto in shock and fear, Kokabiel did not have time to do anything as both his wings were ripped from his back and his feathers scattered into the wind. Kokabiel screamed in pain as he was dropped from the sky and plummeted towards the earth. Without his wings, falling from such a height would ensure death, especially being damaged by Naruto like that. Kokabiel was caught just before he touched the ground, and Naruto simply shouldered Kokabiel's heavily damaged body and prepared to fly off. Are you going to ignore me, Black One? Diverging asked from Issei's boosted Heia.
Naruto turned to face him and Acknowledge decided to respond. Tisk, you are not worthy of my interest, Red One. Your host is too weak at the moment and I don't think my host would like to fight someone so weak.
No other words were exchanged as Naruto took off into the air with Kokabiel in hand, leaving behind a group of shocked, confused devils and a pissed of dragon. That technique of yours sure packs and punch, Azazel commented as he whistled in awe as he saw the battered Kokabiel. Those little wind blades are quite nasty, aren't they? It was the perfect place to test the Rasen Shuriken, Naruto replied as he released a sigh of boredom. Having made it back to the base with Kokabiel, Naruto was now relaxing at home with Azazel there snacking as usual, and I did not expect it to do so much damage. Now that it's completed, I have another attack added to my arsenal. Don't you think that's a bit of an overkill? Azazel asked as he munched on a meat bun. Besides, your destroy dividing is already dangerous enough. What is the point of making another technique that you would hardly use? You know my rival dragon is something not play with. One wrong move I am dead, Naruto responded with a wave of his hand, taking a drink of wine. Azazel was silent for some time before asking in a serious tone, did you do that to Kokabiel because of what he did to your father? How did you? That's not important at the moment, Naruto. Did you or did you not? Yes, I do admit I nearly lost control of myself, Naruto finally replied as he released another sigh. If I really did want to make Kokabiel suffer, I would have unleashed Juggernaut Drive. The Rasen Shuriken was merely for a test of its true power. To make him suffer for what he did, I would have used the true power of Acknowledge, the true power of the Black Dragon Emperor. The boosted gear in the dividing is a true power by a dragon. The boosted gear multiplied the user's power and gave it away.
The dividing divides the enemy's power and absorbs it for the user. Their dragon spirits residing in each sacred gear were no exception either. Dedrag the Welsh Dragon, Albion the Vanishing Dragon and Acknowledge the Shadow Dragon. The destroy dividing destroys the enemy's power and absorbs it for the user, or it can reflect the power. Welsh Dragon and Vanishing Dragon Emperors in their own right with opposite sets of abilities that fought for dominance over the other.
It seemed what they said about opposites was true. They did attract, but not in the way people thought. For centuries both dragons fought. Through their hosts they continued their battle, supremacy versus domination. An endless battle that stretched since the dawn of time itself. Except for the Shadow Dragon, he was different. As he fought he grew stronger. Every he chose was stronger than last. If he the host was weak, his body would disappear like the dust in the wind. The Black Dragon grew too strong for the other dragons, so he set a goal for himself to defeat Great Red. You cannot tame the rage within you with this stage power, Acknowledge said as he reprimed his partner for his stubbornness. Adding another source of energy to control will only kill you or worse, but go ahead, I won't stop. Tisk. If I can get it to work, then our power could increase to the level over normal gods, then we will be able to kill him, Naruto responded as he panted softly. His body was covered in blood from his constant training sessions. Though tired and his body hurt, Naruto pushed on and willed himself to continue. Besides, if I die I am taking you with me.
That stubbornness is going to be the end of you, Naruto, Acknowledge replied with a sigh. Then again, with this power we'll be able to kill all those beings that call themselves gods.
I am glad we are on the same page, Naruto said in a dry chuckle. His face matched his tone quite well. Naruto released a tired sigh and began channeling dark magic with his devil magic around him once more. Determination which was filled with hate and anger for what had happened to his clan. I'll avenge my clan. 3 hours later, my body hurts, it's screaming with agony, Naruto said in a broken tone as his wounds suffered from his previous training session were being bandaged by Kaguya. Wait, what? Ah yes, Kaguya Otsuki, the most powerful woman in the Narutoverse, and Aslo, she has the power to go on pair with Seer's ex Lucifer. She is also Naruto's queen and future wife. You might be wondering how? It is simple. When Naruto figured out he was devil, he gained greed, lust, pride and wrath, so a super being needs a super mate. Kaguya healed. His wounds were so severe that they seemed unlikely to be caused from a mere training session. Naruto had been through worse, and all it took was a few days of rest and his body would have healed, and then his training could continue. You know, for some combat genius you seem to get damaged more than deliver. Kaguya spoke up suddenly. Seeing the annoyed expression that Naruto sent him, Kaguya decided to continue. Azazel said to meet him at the base when your training session was over. Fine, Naruto replied as he sat up from his seated position on the couch and winced slightly as pain erupted from his bandaged wounds. Do you know why Azazel wanted to see me for? Kagaya shook his head in response as Naruto nodded in acceptance and stood up and pulled Kagaya in his arms, bring his hand cupping her cheek. Kagaya was surprised by this, and you could see a heavy blush on her face seeing the intense gaze Naruto was giving before she knew. Naruto leaned forward and captured her lips with passion which was filled with love. Not wasting any second of it, she returned the kiss full force. I love you, Naruto said. I love you too was Kagaya's reply, her face still lost in those ice blue looking deep in her soul which were filled with love, something she never received very much, and that's why she loves him equally. I'll be going now, Naruto said as he left, not waiting for a reply. Naru-kun, it is great to see you again, Azazel said with his usual smile, beaming towards Naruto. I am glad you had taken care of Kokabiel before he could have started a war between the three factions. You did well. Whatever, it is better than going fishing with you, Naruto replied with a smirk of his own, though he wished he had killed Kokabiel, but it was no issue as he had done what had been ordered of him. But I fear Kokabiel was able to speak of our Lord's fate before you could reach Kuo on time, Azazel said as his smile dropped a little before he turned to face Naruto, who seemed to have been not be shocked by the news he had just delivered. And also you are talk of the underworld, Azazel said with a cheerful tone, his eye gleaming with amusement. Naruto accepted the answer, not that he cared about his secret. He gave Azazel his attention once more. Azazel seeing that took it as a sign to continue. But that is not the reason I have brought you here. The reason I have brought you here has to do with your future encounter with the Great Red. Are you really gone fight me? He looked at Naruto with a serious expression. Did need to think about the question for a second. Naruto truly did desire to fight the Great Red. This battle between the most powerful dragons was a dream he wants to make a reality. All Naruto wanted to do was get stronger. With strength he could avenge the ones precious to him, so fighting a dragon equal to his very own partner would likely help in his path. So his answer was yes. Opening his mouth, Naruto spoke in a confident tone. You should know the answer by now, Azazel. Nothing will stand in my way, even heaven will burn to the burn. I feared you would say that. Azazel sighed, but his smile seemed to brighten. His hands shone with a black light and soon a blade manifested before him. It was beautiful purple and red blade with a guard resembling a dragon's claw. Grabbing hold of the blade, Azazel laid it out before him and offered it to Naruto. This is Devastation, a demon sword wielded by the original Lucifer himself, a blade known for its dragon-slaying capabilities. Naruto was beyond shocked. His eyes were the size of dinner plates. How could he not be shocked? The sword was granting him one of the most prized and well-guarded weapons in their arsenal. Azazel, thanks. Taking hold of Devastation, Naruto began testing the blade's balance in his hand. Finding it perfect, Naruto couldn't help but smile. Acknowledgia confused with the blade. Naruto axes now sat in the training grounds with Devastation in his hands. Such a powerful weapon. Now we have a way to slay other dragons, Acknowledgia commented as he thought about his partner's question. Naruto waited patiently for his dragon to answer his question. My, with this sword we can kill that red stain in the dimensional gap. Just hold the sword with your two hands, give it my power. Naruto nodded as he held Devastation with his two hands, focusing on it. Only after a while the sword began to turn black before it sank into his body. Currently, your body is above Satan level and your magic reserves are massive. I would have to you are capable of having infinite power, Acknowledgia replied. With Devastation in our arsenal, we can double our energy intake and use the blade as high excess magic power. That would increase our performance and power output in battle by a dramatic level, Naruto mused. Though he was a genius in combat, having the mental fortitude to think of plans on the spot. Morning. Issei was walking towards Kuo Academy as he moved ahead without Asia. Earlier, both Issei and Asia learned that Rias had something important to do for the meeting of the three faction leaders. Issei was surprised, yesterday at dusk, to learn about where it was going to take place. Flashback. Issei was in front of Rias, who looked peeved on what happened earlier in the pool. Issei was surprised when he heard Zenobia call out to him. Zenobia? What took you so long? Issei questioned the former exorcist. Zenobia plainly answered, I've never worn a swimsuit before, it took me a while to put it on. Where she looked down at her two-piece suit. Do I look weird? She asks. You've never worn one? Is it because you're from the church? The brunette boy asked back. I was never interested in recreational activities like these, Zenobia replied. It still took way too long, though, Issei muttered back. You're right about that. The truth of it is that I took some time to think about some things, Zenobia said. Issei was curious about what she was thinking about. She then asked Issei for a favor, which was to help her become a mother by giving her children. which Issei was to be the father. She confessed that she was lost for a bit, but she talked it over with Rias, where she gave her some advice. With that, she found a new purpose. Since her old purpose to serve God was dead, her new purpose was to become a woman as well as have a life as one and have strong children. Issei was surprised, but before he could do or say anything, Zenobia took him and threw him into a storage room where the two of them were alone. Issei asked Zenobia on what she was doing, where she explained it to him. Anyway, let's give it a try, Zenobia suggested, where she took of her bathing suit top off to reveal her breasts to the young brunette. Issei was surprised by the sudden action, where he didn't even had time to talk, as Zenobia continued on. Regrettably, I am inexperienced with men, so I will let you take the lead, as the expert in. Zenobia moved forward as she embraced him, which Issei was still unable to move from the awkward moment. Make love with me, as long as it's your child. I won't question anything you do, Zenobia declared. Issei just stuttered, as he was still shocked at the moment in front of him. Before they could go any further, they both heard two voices that made Issei's blood turn cold. Although doing it in a storage room is kinky for some couples, I think it would be better if you do it in a love hotel room, or your bedroom first, don't you agree, Rias? Issei. Rias said in an unpleasant, angry tone. Both Issei and Zenobia turned to see that the storage room door was open. Stood in front of it was Rias. Behind her was Asia, and Kaneko stood by as they witnessed it, where Asia shouted unpleasantly as not being the one in the situation that the two were in.
Issei was going to say something, but Zenobia beat him to it as she continued on about giving her his child. Everyone was stunned or surprised about Zenobia's statement, where the only thing the perverted brunette could do was shout in frustration and fear.
My goodness, Issei, why are you indecent? Rias stated. Issei was about to answer, but Zenobia stepped in by saying that Issei was helping her get pregnant. Issei retorted, can you just keep quiet? Shouted at the newest knight. Before things could go any further, they all heard a cheerful tone, where they all then turned back to see the teleported entrance of Sears's Lucifer and his queen, Graphia. Everyone, but Rias, Asia, and Zenobia bowed down. Formally greeting himself to Rias' final bishop and newest knight, Rias questioned on why her brother was doing here. He explained that he, and their father, will be here tomorrow for Parents' Day, which Rias figured out that it was Graphia that told him. The red hair princess then asked on why he was doing here, since she wasn't as important as his duties as Satan. I am visiting for work, too, Sears said, where they were curious on what he meant. I would like to host the conference for the three factions here, in this academy, Sears stated, which surprised everyone. End flashback. After that, both the Devil King and Graphia slept over for the night at Issei's home, where Rias was staying as well. In the morning, Rias escorted Sears around with Graphia while Issei and Asia went to school. They stopped by Zenobia's apartment building, where Asia went to see if she was alright since she wasn't outside at their meeting point. This led to Issei going to school ahead of them. Issei's thoughts stopped when he felt his left arm beat in a strange sensation of pain that alerted him to something. He stopped walking on the stone bridge that connect him to the school to look around. As he looked in front of him, where Kuo entrance exit gates are located, he saw an older teenager resting his back on the wall. The person was a young handsome man with dark silver hair and light blue eyes. He wore street clothes that made him look like a bad boy. Issei watched as the young man calmly walked towards him but stopped about 2 to 3 meters away from him. This is our first time meeting, huh? Said the stranger, where Issei was confused on what he said. The young man then continued on with his speech. Welsh Dragon, Emperor of the Red Dragon, Hyodo Issei. That surprised Issei, since this person knows him. Before he could ask him, the young man introduced himself. I am Vali, Emperor of the White Dragon, the Vanishing Dragon. Hearing that the person was the Vanishing Dragon, Issei thought about it, where his arm began to pulse in pain. He was distracted by it that he didn't even notice Vali was now in front of him with his arm extended, having his finger pointing at his head. You're defenseless, Vali stated. For instance, right now I could use a magical, he began to say before he was interrupted by 2 swords that converge on his neck. Standing on both Vali's sides, Kiba and Zenobia had their swords out ready to strike at the Vanishing Dragon. Knowing that the two had their swords on his throat didn't change his confident grin. Is this going too far to be a simple joke? Kiba stated. We can't let you start a fight with the Emperor of Red Dragon here, Emperor of White Dragon, Zenobia stated. As the three looked at Vali, Asia came to Issei's side, where he told to stay behind him. Seeing this form of aggression, Vali only grinned at their attempt. TPS. Don't even try it. You couldn't defeat Kokabiel, so you can't hold a candle against me. If you don't mind people seeing us, then by all means, go ahead, Vali suggested to them. Hearing that Vali is strong, everyone around him became nervous, since they know where they stand in that point. Before things could go any further, everyone, including Vali, was surprise on what they heard next. As boring as this meeting is going on, we have somewhere to be, brother. Vali slightly turned his head to see was Naruto leaning on the bridge rail. Rias and her peerage turned to see a blonde the style like, Sting Eucliffe. Haired handsome teen, he has icy blue eyes that could freeze hell. He is wearing a long white shirt, on top of it is a black winter coat with white fur, with skinny gray pants and black Vans. Around his neck is a Jashin necklace. He has black earrings. In total he looked like a man who could steal your girl with one look. All the girls could not help but blush. No, not really. I only came to greet my rival, that's all, brother, Vali replied. Hearing that the two of them were brothers was something that nobody actually ever imagined. Before they could say anything, Vali continued to chat with his future opponent. Hyodo Issei. Where do you think you rank in power among the people of the world? Questioned Vali. Nani? Issei absence-mindedly said your balance breaker, although is incomplete, is a 4-digit from the top. It ranks somewhere between 1 and 1,500. No, considering the strength of the host, probably lower, Vali explained. What is it that you're trying to say? Issei acts in frustration. Hyodo Issei is a rare gem, very much worth training, Rias Gremory, Vali stated. Issei turned back to see that Rias was behind them with Akano and Kaneko right next to her. Rias walked up to him where she asked on why the vanishing dragon was here, where she was curious about his arrival and also his so-called brother, who by the way looked amused by the situation. In the past, the Welsh dragon and vanishing dragon, the red and white, have caused all they meet to lead miserable lives. How are things working out for you? He smugly asked the Crimson Hair King. Wait, who is he? What do you mean he is your brother? Is he a fallen angel or what? Axe, shouted Issei as he pointed at Naruto. Even the peerage was curious, not sensing him when he arrived. Did you forget me already, Red One? Naruto asked with a playful tone in his voice. Seeing Issei glaring, he decided not be an ass. I am Naruto Namakis, also known as the Shadow Dragon, or you can call me the Black Dragon Emperor. Issei was shocked seeing another Dragon Emperor. He did not forget the battle between him and Kokabiel. He was not the only shocked. Rias, Kaneko and the rest were now shacking seeing two powerhouses together. Naruto seeing the tension gleams with excitement. But do not worry about me, I am just here back, a piece of trash I lost, Naruto stated and chuckled seeing Vali giving him a death glare. I am not here to fight today, Vali said as he started to walk away from them. I have a lot of things to attend to, Vali explained before he stopped and looked back at Naruto. By the way, just to let your roommate know, I am passing a message to you from Azazel. He isn't coming today considering the situation they are in, Vali stated. I see. Better be going, Naruto bidding farewell. Same to you, brother, Vali replied as he continued on his way. Once Vali was gone, everyone breathed a sigh of relief, but the troubling moment still remained. Naruto just sighed, saying that his older brother is always like this, even when they were little. Naruto could see that Rias and Akano were gazing at him with questionable looks on their faces. What are you still doing? Rias asked, still feeling a dread in his stomach. I am just here to give my lil dragon brother advice, Naruto stated before he looked Issei dead in the eyes. Issei could not help but flinch at those powerful eyes. Red Dragon Emperor with a devil from the Gremory worth 8 pawns. Naruto mused to himself, I hope you better than the last time, Red One, because your fight with your rival might lead to your death at the moment. Hearing that peerage could not help but feel dread in their stomach become worse, Naruto decided with a few last words. Gasper is currently reside and saw that Issei is training Gasper in controlling his abilities. From what he is seeing, Gasper managed to make some progress as he saw he managed to stop the time of the ball and it is now floating in mid-air, not far from them. Asia is also cheering for Gasper. Kaneko is standing at the distance, eating a pack of chips. Good job, Gasper. If you keep it up then our dream will become a reality in no time, encouraged Issei and gained a pervert grin on his face. What dream Issei-san is talking about, Gasper-kun? Wondered Asia curiously. Hi. His dream is for me to freeze all him, Gasper began to tell Asia cheerfully. However, before that Issei quickly covered his mouth with his palm and interrupted. Ah. Our dream is to become stronger and manlier, right, Gasper? Issei looked at Gasper in hope for him to understand what to imply to him, to which the later understood and nodded his head. When Issei released him, Gasper exclaimed. Hi. We want to become stronger and manlier, I see. That is a great goal, Asia replied with a soft smile. One more time, Gasper, exclaimed Issei with hidden arrow flames in his eyes. It seems he is really fire up and determined for Gasper to master his ability so that he could turn his ultimate pervert to reality. Hi, Issei-senpai, exclaimed Gasper and grinned widely. Issei threw the ball at Gasper only for Gasper to freeze his right arm. Kaneko sweat dropped at their stupid failure. Elsewhere Azazel is looking down at the sight below him in bore. He is sitting on top of a bridge and looking how the cars are moving back and forth. Suddenly he said while looking forward. Such a wonderful sight, right? He is addressing to the two young men that are standing behind him with the one with his hands in his pockets. Said young man is looking borely at Azazel's back while the other is leaning on the railing with his eyes closed. You came here just to sightseeing, Azazel? Naruto asked without bothering to open his eyes. Azazel turned back with a grin and waved his hand in dismiss. Ma, what's wrong to enjoy sightseeing, eh? Vali sighed and said seriously, enough with that goofy attitude, but should we really be present at the summit? Of course, you are Hakuriko after all, and also we have to represent the new Black Emperor Dragon, replied Azazel simply. Say, Azazel, the war won't happen again after the summit, right? Wondered Vali looking slightly solemn. Well, we will do our best for that to not happen, stated Azazel. He thought for a bit and decided to ask, what do you think of Naruto-kun? Naruto recalled the face of the ever-calm and stated with a bored tone, how should I say this? I simply do not care about the three factions. As long as they stay out of my way, there will be no need for blood to spill, Naruto said with a cold tone. Azazel saw the hatred on Naruto's face and stated, do not let the past control you. Naruto opened his eye and looked at Azazel. Instead of a blue eye it was red with three tomas spinning widely. If you think I am just a foolish kid ruled by emotions, that is fine. Following your path would have been childish, the whispering of fools who do not know pain and hatred. If anyone Elise tries to ridicule the way I live, I will slaughter everyone they cared about, and then maybe they'll understand how it tastes to feel a little of my hatred. Azazel hearing that said nothing more to change him. He was dedicated, he can give him that, but his stuck in the past nothing can do now and hope for best. So Vali, anything about your rival? Recalling Issei's poor skills when they met for the second time, Vali shook his head in disappointment. That is one poor excuse of Securite. Unless he could really pull out a miracle, he will become equal or half of my strength, but right now, I think he is a disgrace to the previous host of Boosted Gear. Hell, I even wondered why Boosted Gear chose him as a host. Naruto nodded his head and named out the sacred gear, Boosted Gear in the hands of a weakling. I do not know if I should pity the dragon or be amused by the host. My rival like that is not worth fighting. Even if God has died, sacred gear could be considered equally to God. Nothing will be more satisfyingly to defeat him with my own hands, stated Vali with battle lust in his eyes. Hey, words worthy of Hakuriko, stated Azazel with smirk. Naruto just snorted to Azazel's words and just gazing afar, shadowed Oregon. The day of the summit outside, it was a nice day at the Kuo Academy. The sky was cleared of any clouds, but suddenly a space was ripped out, and out of there a young girl with expressionless face flew out of the rip. She landed elegantly and sat at the iron column at the top of the building. Suddenly, she turned around as she felt a presence behind her. Behind her, floating with his divine dividing, is none other than Vali. Ah, Vali. I see you will be participating on this summit as well, exclaimed the girl with empty eyes. Vali put his gaze down at the girl in front of him and stated, Ophis? I see you come here to observe Naruto-san, am I right? Ophis has the appearance of a girl with gray pupil-less eyes and dark hair that reached her hips. Her face always remained expressionless, as such a being as her could rarely felt surprise or interest in anything. Her attire consists of a black gothic Lolita fashion, but one thing that caught your eyes is her overwhelming aura and her unusual pointy ears. They slightly resemble vampires, but also differ from them. The girl, Ophis, is actually one of the most powerful and ancient being in the world, the dragon god of infinity, or Ouroboros dragon. She always thought that she and Baka Red are the only omnipotent being born in this world. But who would have thought that after such a long time, the third entity will be born? Yes, as the being of infinity power and wisdom, Ophis knew of the potential of the ultimate. However, the day when he will reach her and Baka Red still yet to come. As he is now, he can surely fight back most of powerful beings. However, his power is still slight yield in compared to mythological gods. The reason Ophis come here, it's to see Naruto's power firsthand, and how will he deal with Kataria and Samil simultaneously. Yeah, I heard he is extremely powerful, so I came here to witness what he is made of with my own eyes, replied Ophis with her poker face as usual. Well, I would like to see just how much that poor excuse of dragon host improved, exclaimed Vali with his bloodthirsty grin. Ophis glanced at Vali's expression and stated, you are still a fighting maniac like ever, eh? Vali just shrugged his shoulders and retort, well, I didn't want for things to be boring, and peace is very boring. OCR clubroom. Meanwhile, at the clubroom, Rias and her peerages have gathers preparing to go to the summit. However, not everyone is going to the summit. Gasper must stayed in place because of his uncontrolled power and to assure that everything will be alright with him. Rias left Kaneko to look after him. Well, it's time for us to depart, exclaimed Rias, then kneeled down at Gasper, who had found a favorite place in the carton box. Gasper, be a good boy and stay here, all right? And don't key your power goes out of control or the consequence will be very bad, okay? Gasper nodded his head curtly and leaned in when Rias rubbed his head encouragingly. Don't worry. Kaneko will be here with you. Rias turned to Kaneko and stated, I am counting on you, Kaneko. Kaneko bowed down slightly and replied, I will do my best to protect Ga-kun when you are absent, bucko. Rias nodded her head in acceptance. Issei kneeled down at now his buddy and gave him his old Game Boy to Gasper. I brought this to you, so you don't feel bored out of your mind. Gasper accepted with a smile and replied, Arigato, Issei senpai. Issei ruffed hair and thought to himself, slightly worried for Gasper. Even with Kaneko by his side, I am still feeling worry for Gasper. Kaneko brought a box of snacks and put down at the table, and I've brought lots of snacks for you. Issei clutched his fist slowly and felt that he indeed become much stronger than he was before. He would have say thank you to Naruto if he was good terms with him, but he wasn't. He knew well enough that preparing him for his fight with Vali is only part of the reason, so what is going in that bastard mind? Meeting room. Rias knocked the door and asked permission to enter. When permission was granted, she and the other could saw the leaders of all three factions were already there. Additional, she could saw Sona and Tsubaki present there. From the underworld, Searsex Lucifer and Seraphol Leviathan represented the devil's side. Graphia Lucifuge also was present there as a guardian. Seraphol sneak a look at Naruto with the corner of her eyes, and of course, Rias, Akeno and Xenovia trying to be as calm as they could. Seraphol was far too straightforward. From the heaven, Michael represented the angel's side. But not far behind him stood one very familiar figure to Rias' peerage. Especially Xenovia. Yes, it was none other than Irina Shithu. She actually came here to find out about why Xenovia betrayed them. And what actually happened after she was sent away to the hospital. For some reason, no one told her anything about that, but she still managed to find out about God's death, and certainly, she was depressed and devastated as well as shocked at the news, but she slowly overcome her depressing mood and come here for the summit. She knew that she will find all her answers after this summit, as she will have a chance to ask Naruto directly about what happened during Kokabiel incident. From the Grigori, Azazel represented the side of fallen angel, and not far from him stood Vali with crossed arms, leaned back at the wall behind, and next to him was Naruto wearing a long black shirt showing off his fully developed muscles and was also wearing a pair of ripped jeans with black sneakers. Issei locked eyes with Vali and both narrowed their eyes. This is my sister and her peerage. Now we could start this summit, said Searsex and interlaced his fingers in front his face. Okay, now let's start the meeting, proposed Azazel with a grin.
Scene change. Rias and Sona read their report about an accident with Kokabiel, informing the leaders of three factions. When they finished their report, Rias stated, everything in this report is truth and only truth, that I swear.
All the leaders nodded their head in acceptance. Rias and Sona stepped back, though Seraphol decided to thank them. Arigato, Rias, Sona-chan. Sona flushed a bit at seeing her sister's mature side and stepped back with Rias. And now I would like to ask the person that single-handedly defeat one of the leader of Grigori. Michael looked Naruto with his usual kind look. Just how long were you aware of the existence of Black Dragon? And why decided to reveal it now? I am afraid the answer why he decided to reveal his existence should be addressed to me, Azazel, but in looking at the leader of angels, I was the one that ordered for Naruto to reveal his status, because I felt that somehow sooner or later you will find out about him. But why did you decide to hide such a powerhouse from us? Azazel wondered. Searsex curiously. Even if the war has ended, I did really trust angels or devils. I know that Naruto-kun could take care of himself. However, judging by Naruto-kun's status, he will be targeted by other factions as well. As such, I decided to hide Naruto identity till he really could stand by himself, explained Searsex. Were you aware that Naruto-san was the Black Dragon when you picked him up, Azazel-san? Asked Michael, turning to Crimson Satan. Of course not, Michael-kun. When I find that I was shocked myself at how unpredictable Naruto-kun as, chuckled Azazel and glanced at Naruto. The question though, Azazel-san, why Kokabiel decided to start a war? Asked Searsex, calmly meeting gaze with Azazel. Azazel took a breath and replied, he did that without my permission or without my notice. That prick was always a warmonger. He seemed to be frustrated that the previous war ended by the peace treaty. He believed that if it will continue that our side will win. Sigh, what a brainless lunatic. Azazel rubbed his temples lightly. Still, he was one of your men. You should NT of letting him take free action so carelessly, retort Michael. However, Azazel just turned a knowing gaze at Michael. Well, that's actually logical. However, we all came here to sign a treaty, right? Then let's sign it quickly, replied Azazel with a nod of his own. Searzex suddenly gained a strange mischievous grin that unnerves Naruto. Well, if you wanted to sign that treaty so bad, Azazel-san, then I may as well sign it for you, but I have one interesting proposition that I've already offered Odin-sama from Asgard in hope to gain an alliance with Asgard as well. Vali glanced at Naruto in amusement and curiosity. When he saw Naruto clench his jaws, he did not expect that the leaders of 3 factions will strengthen the alliance with Asgard. He didn't know should he pity him or feel excited. Before we sign this treaty, I'd like to know the opinion of the ones that indirectly involve with 3 factions, requested Azazel, then looked at Issei, Sakuryuta and pointed his big finger behind. Hakuryuko then glanced at Naruto, and of course Naruto-kun. The Shadowed Oregon, what do you guys think about the treaty? I don't mind, as long as there is a worthy opponent for me, Vali replied carelessly and slightly glancing at Naruto with excitement in his eyes. Che, even without the war, there are dozens of worthy opponent for you, Vali responded Azazel with a shrug. Oh, but I don't think so, retort Vali with a bloodthirsty smirk. Then what about you, Sakuryuta? Asked Azazel, turning his gaze to the pervert pawn. Issei saw his gaze direct at him and felt slightly nervous. Well, I don't know. It's difficult to answer such a serious question right away, for me. Seeing Issei's hesitation, Azazel decided to add, what is here to hesitate? I heard you want a harem. Could you imagine having a harem consists of girls from different factions? As if to imply what he wanted to say. Issei's eyes started to shine brightly and he began to drool at the fantasy, so succumbing to his libido, Issei nodded and shouted, yes, I am for peace, peace is the best. Rias and Akano actually covered their face from embarrassment, while Naruto sighed at Issei's pervert antics. Sona glanced disapprovingly at Issei. Searzex and Azazel laughed hard at his reply. Then what about you? Asked Michael, turning his gaze to the black dragon. Naruto turned his icy gaze at Michael, crossed his arms and stated, that's fine. I do not have any interest in this peace, as long as no one dares to keep me from having my revenge, Naruto said coolly. Some of the people in room felt unnerved by the statement. What is this revenge of yours, Naruto-san? Michael asked, looking at the young blonde teen. Killing those who betrayed my clan, Naruto said with his eyes showing no emotion. Then it settles then, we will sign the treaty right away, said Azazel, smiling. Outside near the abandoned building, unknown to all those that were in Summit, a certain group had sneaked in the Kuo and attempted to kidnap Gasper Vladi for their plan. They are planning to complete Gasper's forbidden Belorview to balance breaker to freeze time from those in the Summit. They were called magician, humans with unnatural ability to use magic. However, they were not the only one that were waiting for the right moment to strike. Fallen Angel Samil and his followers were also waiting for the other side to make their moves so they could make theirs. Their goal is simple, to kill Naruto. Prepare yourself. Namaki's today is the last day that you will draw a breath, said Samil with his voice full of hair. The wind around him began to pick up and blow harshly, 10 wings behind his back. While Gasper is carelessly playing his Game Boy given by Issei, Kaneko felt an uneasy feeling creeping to them. Being a Nekosho, Kaneko was very sensitive to dangerous situations, and right now, she is looking out of the window to check out the situation outside. Kaneko widened her eyes a bit, seeing some foreign figures floating on magic circle and preparing to invade this place. In this entire building, only her and Gasper resided. That means their target is either her or Gasper. They sure picked a convenient moment to appear. That also means that they were aware of the 3 factions summit. Hurriedly, Kaneko picked up the carton box which Gasper was currently sitting in. Gasper felt himself being raised up and looked down at Kaneko questionably. Is something wrong, Kaneko-chan? Kaneko didn't reply back but stared expressionlessly at the door, and that moment the door was burst out, revealing several figures with black robes with hoods covering their faces. The hood has the imprint of an eye on it. What do you guys need? Asked Kaneko calmly and put the carton with Gasper on her shoulder. With Rook's strength, she could carry him without problem. TCH, there is still a rat here, EHM. Never mind that. Hand over that vampire to us now, Chibi, demanded the figure standing in the center. Nope, replied Kaneko simply and began to run away quickly. Don't let her escape, ordered the magician in the center. The rest nodded their heads and began to shot beams from the center eye on the hood. Kaneko tried her best to escape, but the enemies outnumber her and also using long-range magic attacks. She needs to protect Gasper and defend against the attacks at the same time, which proved really difficult to her. Kaneko is a close-range combat fighter. Facing against multiply long-range fighters clearly put her in huge disadvantage. In the end, both she and Gasper were captured with minor injuries due to enemies' attacks. Gomen, I've failed you. Rias Bucko, everyone that was Kaniko's last thought before she knocked unconscious. Back to the summit, the three leaders of their factions have successfully signed the treaty. Everyone sighed in relief as due to this treaty there will be no conflicts between them anymore. Naruto was trying to come to terms with the fact that the Asgard was part of the treaty. He will be betrothed with this information. Oh well, nothing goes according to plan, maybe they will understand if not. Naruto mentally smirked with his dark thoughts. Well, now that the treaty is signed I propose to celebrate it, proposed Azazel with a wide grin. Vali behind him just turned his gaze out of the window. Outside, he saw the floating figure of Ophis, which is waving at him. Ophis allowed only Vali to sense her presence, that's why the others couldn't feel her. Yosh. I propose a bikini party at the pool in Buckus' house. However, all girls must be topless, proposed Issei enthusiastically with a pervert grin on his face. Blood began to pour from his nose. Azazel laughed out loud at Issei's proposal. The rest chuckled at the idea, minus Rias, Graphia and Sona, but they also admit the idea is not that bad. Now, Issei, calm down, or else you will die from blood lost. Rias shook his head and approached him. However, the moment she touched him, something strange happened. Everybody within the room was frozen except Mouse, Naruto, Graphia, Michael, Azazel, Holy Sword wielders, 2 heavenly dragons and herself. What happened? Wondered Issei in shock. It seems time was stopped by someone, deduced Sirzex with narrowed eyes. But it didn't work on us. Those with incredible power, said Naruto and referred to himself, Mouse, Azazel, Michael and Graphia. And those with heavenly dragons powers, Vali referred to himself and Issei. And it also didn't work on holy sword wielders. Azazel referred to Yuto, Zenobia and Irina. Rias find herself grateful to Issei as thanks to his draconic powers, she wasn't frozen like others. Thank you, Issei, your power protected me. Rias thanked him sincerely. And no problem, Bucko. Issei felt himself flush a bit being praised by his Bucko. Suddenly they heard a strange sound and looked outside to see that there was a huge teleportation portal above them in the sky. Out of the portal, dozens of magicians descended and shoot magic beams annihilating the soldiers of all 3 factions. A huge teleportation portal was casted above us? Muttered Sirzex earnestly. But who are they? Wondered Issei curiously. They are magicians. Azazel answered his question. Shame on them. To imitate a magician girl like me, complained Seraphal with a frown. She reversed back to her childish personality. But who could do something like this? Wondered Michael, gazing out of the window, seeing his force being destroyed by magicians little by little. It's possibly the power of that vampire. They power it up and complete it to the level of balance breaker, assumed Azazel. This is Gasper's power. Asked Issei incredulously. He didn't aware that Gasper power will be this great. Those who can resist against this magic can't only be count on hands. However, if his power is gonna grow. Naruto didn't finish his sentence because he felt one more very powerful presence outside, and it seems so one really serious decided to appear for my head as well. Azazel narrowed his eyes and looked out of the window. In the middle of this mayhem, a lone figure with 10 wings is floating in the sky. For some reason, this figure only aimed at soldier devils to kill. Samil, muttered Azazel quietly, but those in the room could still hear him, so he used this chance to get rid of Naru-kun. I should expect this to happen. So that figure over there is one of the fallen archangels, Samil, If he could still move under the influence of Gasper's power, then he must be incredibly powerful, stated Naruto to himself, staring at Samil, who was enjoying to kill of devil soldiers. Naruto muttered Irina and looked worriedly at her crush, which I will explain later. Zenobia stayed silent, but she was also shocked at the appearance of one of fallen archangel. She knew her power is not enough to assist her master. Seraphal narrowed her eyes at Samil's figure far away from them. Like hell she will let some stupid warmonger fallen archangel kill her future boy toy. She blushed at the dirty things she was gone do to him. Graphia also keeps silent, however she was not worried for Naruto's safety, rather she wanted to see how Naruto's strength will up against one of fallen archangels. Samil is strong, that is no doubt. If that is true, then we must save Gasper right away. He is from my peerage, and as a member of my family, I will go rescue him. Ni-sama requested Rias determinedly. Members of her peerage were taken hostage, that's such a disgrace to her family. But how? Someone casted a nullifying magic to teleportation. Our teleportation magic is useless now, wondered Sirzex, glaring outside, seeing his force being eliminated while he is helpless to help them here. In the abandoned building, I have a rook piece that haven't used yet, explained Rias, looking at her brother. I see, you want to use castling move. Sirzex understood what his sister planned to do. Rias nodded her head for confirmation. Castling move. Wondered Issei confusedly. It's a special move in chess that exchange the position of king and rook, explained Yuto. If we use your powers, then we could transfer one more person with her, Sirzek-sama added Grafia that was standing behind Sirzek. Naruto looked outside the window and stated, someone is eager to see me, I can't disappoint him now, right? Naruto clearly indicates the figure of Samil, who is killing the devil soldiers with great satisfaction. Irina looked in concern at Naruto and said, be careful there, Naruto. Please, when I return I wanted to see you in one piece. When everyone heard the concern for the young teen from the Exocrist were shocked except for Azazel and Michael. Vali looked at Naruto and then Irina. Something was going between them, but he just let it go for now. Naruto smiled at her and replied, what are you talking about? I don't plan to die anytime soon. Even if my opponent is a crow, I have no intention to lose to him. Take care of my sister, Issei-kun requested Sirzek, looking at Issei. I will protect her with my life, exclaimed Issei and stabbed his fist to his chest like making a vow. It's time to test how much stronger he has become. If taking back that half-vampire is so difficult to you, then maybe I will do that for you instead, proposed Vali arrogantly. Teme, shouted Issei and gritted his teeth in silent anger. Try to read the situation, Vali. We are here for peace after all. Azazel intervened as he didn't need for Issei, and Vali picked a fight this moment. Fine. It's just that I don't like to do nothing. That's too boring, replied Vali carelessly and shrugged his shoulder. Then go outside and entertain our guests a bit, proposed Azazel with a smirk. Seeing Hakuryuko all of a sudden will sure cause some panics in their rank. Okay. Better than sitting in one place and do nothing, Vali replied back with a shrug and activate his divine dividing and flew outside. Outside, Vali flew up high with a smirk on his face as he attracted enemies' attention to him. He stood in a pose and shouted. Balance, break. Slowly his body was covered by blue shining orbs in the area of knees, wrists and chest, and then scale mail of Vanishing Dragon appeared on his body. Vanishing Dragon, balance breaker, shouted Divine Dividing when Vali finished his transformation. Inside, Issei looked in wonder as Vali transformed to balance breaker form so easily. He can do it so easily, while I can't even transform in it after giving up my left hand. I wonder, can I do it now after that hellish training? Well, if you want to know that, then I can tell you, Ibo, as you are now, you can transform to that form, but only for 10 minutes, that's your limit for now. Despite those hellish training, physically you aren't ready yet to reach the complete form yet, informed Diedrich, which caused Issei to sigh either in relief or in disappointment. Either way, if he could somehow defeat Vali in 10 minutes, then his training will be paid off. Outside, Vali waited for the enemies to attack him and wasn't disappointed. The moment Vali transformed, magicians began to assault him with beams. However, Vali deflected them all with a defense magic of his own. To counter-attack them, he created a white ball of energy and swings it to release it. As a result, all the magicians that were in the radius of the attack were demolished. However, because the summoning circle was still there, enemies continued to descend from it. Inside, seeing how easily Vali annihilates the enemies made Issei widened his eyes on awe and a bit of fright. Wow. He is extremely powerful, to destroy so many enemies with a single attack like that, muttered Issei. Yeah. But his power has a sense of dangerous in it, comment Xenovia, who was observing as well. Outside, Samil saw the appearance of Hakuryuko, however he is waiting for that blasphemy to appear to eradicate him with his own hand. He knew that someone like Naruto won't ever run away from a fight. That's why he is patiently waiting for Naruto to confront him himself. His forces has finally finished the annihilation of devil soldiers. Currently they are waiting for his commands and were on standby. Come out, come out. The blasphemy, you can't expect for me to wait for you here forever, muttered Samil with an evil grin. Inside, Naruto turned his gaze away from Vali and began to float while said, I am gonna greet my prey. Azazel, keep Irina safe. One scratch on her your head has won the line. And with that, Naruto flew straight to the direction where Samil is currently located. Irina raised her hand and attempted to say something, but Naruto was already gone. She feels incredibly worried for him at this moment. After all, one of fallen archangels has come for his life. Even if he has 10 wings like Kokabiel, Samil was far stronger than him. In fact, his strength was inferior only to 4 great archangel. Irina felt a hand was put gently on her shoulder and looked at it. The owner of that hand was Michael. Naruto will be okay. We need to stay focused on the situation will become worst. Irina stated at Michael for a minute, then nodded her head in agreement. You are right. Naruto is strong. Nothing will happen to him. I need to focus. Rias took Issei's hand in hers and stated, Ni-sama, we are ready. Issei blushed at the contact, feeling how softly and delicate her hand is. Seerzex nodded his head and began to cast his spell. He then looked at Issei and requested, Issei-kun, please protect Rias. I will protect her with my life, exclaimed Issei. The Gremory circle appeared under them and they were transported away. In their stead a rook piece was replaced and fell to the ground. Naruto versus Samil. Samil felt a presence is coming at him with high speed and smirked widely. When Naruto is floating opposite of him, his force prepared for battle by standing in battle stance. Finally, you decided to appear, Namakis, exclaimed Samil loudly and pouring at his opponent accusingly. Naruto didn't reply him back right away, but gazed around him, seeing lots of fallen angels were glaring at him daggers. He turned his attention back to Samil and began to talk. So you were fallen Archangel Samil? Don't know why you are so disgusted with my presence, however it does not matter, a bug like you does not pose a threat to my life. No matter, I could just enjoy killing you, Naruto stated with a dark chuckle. Samil scoffed and shouted, enough talking, we hate your existence, your father killed many of our kind, we will have our revenge. Just as he said that, the other angels began to assault Naruto with the holy weapons. Samil decided to step down to the back row to observe Naruto's ability first. Do not refer to me as that, false god. Samil yelled at the floating god. Now don't be that way, I am just messing with ya, Naruto responded with a chill smile. I told you not to call me that. Samil yelled in before flinging a barrage of light spear attacks at Naruto. Naruto responded by forming a mini Rasen shuriken at the tip of each and throw them as if they were normal shurikens. The resulting explosions rocked the entire school ground as the two golden energies of different makes collided. Whoa, calm down, Sam-chan. That could have really hurt, Naruto said with a fake startled expression on his face. That's the point, you insufferable being, now I find that offensive, Naruto said while wagging his finger at Samil. Right now I am in a good mood, trust me. You don't want me to show you most venomous side. His smile became much more predatory. This smile managed to temporarily unnerve Samil, which caused him to be even more pissed. Damn you. Samil formed his largest light spear yet and sent it speeding at Naruto. You always were thick, weren't you? Naruto's smile became frown as the light spear closed in on him. To those below it looked like sure hit, but a sound that sounded mysteriously like thousands of chirping birds filled the air as the spear of lightning pierced through the attack. I'd appreciate it if you would stop sending such feeble attacks at me, Crow. Naruto's voice had become strangely much more threatening and serious. His smile then returned as the heavy atmosphere disappeared. So, do you want to have a bad time? Naruto's right eye cracked open to reveal a Sharingan eye with cross-slitted pupils. Inside Senjutsu, Azazel muttered, what was that? Seerzex Gremory, questioned. Naruto-kun is using Senjutsu. Back with Naruto. Samil gritted his teeth before forcibly calming himself down. You're purposely making me angry, aren't you? Oh, you finally figured it out, Sam-chan. Guess that means I should take you a bit seriously, huh? As he said that, his purple aura washed over his clothing, causing the black side to change to a glowing purple with black magatama appearing along the collar. His black side remained the same, but gained purple magatama along the collar. Yes, you should be, Samil growled out as a sword made of light appearing in his hands. Oh. Is it sword fight time? Good thing I brought Kusanagi, eh? As he said that, a long katana appeared in his left hand. He held it in a reverse grip. Samil glared at the god and then charged straight at him at god speed. Naruto readied his blade in front of himself as he watched Samil approach. Clang, the sound of the blades connecting would have been able to be heard from miles away if it weren't for the barrier. Samil then proceeded to jab his blade at Naruto at a speed that would make it look like he had grown 1,000 arms. Naruto danced in the air through each jab, still only keeping his right eye open. Enough. Samil slashed his blade, causing a crescent-shaped wave to hurtle straight at Naruto. Naruto placed 3 of Chakra massive tails in front of himself to block the attack and then sent 3 others to attack Samil. Samil parried each tail away before charging at Naruto, whose smile widened as the tails whipped around and attacked Samil from was seemingly pierced in 3 separate places, his head and both his lungs, but he faded into light particles instead that floated away and quickly reformed into Samil behind Naruto. He raised his blade to strike down Naruto, but was blocked by another tail. Naruto's smile widened even further as he stared over his shoulder at Samil, whose frown had turned into a mad grin. This is boring. Let's speed up a bit, K? Back with the others. For those present, the blitz of attacks had happened far too fast for any of them to see. It was as if they were watching a battle between true gods. Azazel, how come I've never heard of this? Seerzex was not arrogant enough to claim she knew every single powerful being god. Because he does not want attention, Azazel replied. Back with Naruto, the battle had truly speed up as the 10-winged fallen angel and the 10-tailed god clashed throughout the air. Shockwaves could be seen as the raged all around. The red would send out one of tails and block it with his sword and continue to press his offense. Naruto kept his distance and only occasionally block an attack with his blade. Samil grew tired of this back and forth and summoned a barrage of light spears at Naruto. Naruto responded by whipping out name 9 of his tails to block the steady barrage. Samil's smile widened even further as he started firing light spears at even faster speed. As the blasts kept being blocked by Naruto, tails light particles filled the air as the light spears were destroyed. These light particles gathered up and formed 3 new Samil. Block this. All 4 called out as the 3 Samils gathered around Naruto and formed large light spears. They each chucked the large spears in hopes of finishing Naruto off. Gladly, Naruto crossed his fingers and in a poof of smoke 5 clones appeared around Naruto. 3 went and used themselves as shield to block the 3 spears, while 1 went around at high speeds and dispatched each of the Samil with well-placed Chidoris. The explosions of the light spears lit up the sky as the final clone grabbed Naruto's final tail and started to absorb the light energy from it. Samil, seeing that his plan failed, ceased his barrage and formed 2 light swords in his hands. He once again charged, but Naruto crossed his fingers and another clone appeared above Samil's head and performed a bicycle kick that sent Samil hurtling towards the ground. The clone next to Naruto raised his thumb to signal that his job was done and disappeared in a puff of smoke. Samil crashed to the ground and caused a large eruption of smoke. Naruto formed a golden Rasengan in his hands and descended down at high speed, rammed his attack into the still recovering Samil's stomach. He then picked Samil up and sent him hurtling into the air. He formed 2 Rasen shurikens in both hands, 1 purple 1 black, and sent them into the air. He used his 2-pointer finger as if he was a conductor to control the attacks as they flew all over the sky, but didn't connect with Samil, who still couldn't stop himself. Hum, hum hum, hum hum. Naruto was moving his hands to a song only he knew. His movements were off course, sending his attacks all around the sky. Hum, ha. As his eternal song came to an end, he slammed his hands together, causing the 2 attacks to start speeding toward each, with Samil, who had me the height of his involuntary flight, in the middle. And let this be our climax, Koka-chan. The 2 attacks connected, forming a large sphere of golden and dark energy to form in the air. Back with the others. Holy crap, Searzek said in amazement as he looked at the large sphere in the air. What is he? Xenovia wondered. The rest of the Gremory group stared in amazement at what they had seen unfold before them. With Naruto, the broken body of Samil crashed to the ground, barely walked up to the body. The gold of his clothes had turned back to orange and he had once again closed his right eye in a permanent eye smile. Well, look at that. You're still alive. You're never going to move again and your pain is in pain at this point. But you survived. Good for you. Naruto formed a purple Rasengan in his left hand. Let's correct that, shall we? I'd have to ask you don't do that, a voice cut in. Naruto looked up, completely unshocked by the sudden arrival. What do you want? As he said this, Naruto stepped on Samil's chest. Azazel finished his flight down and slowly approached Naruto with an angry look in his eyes. Naruto. I am going to have to ask you to remove your foot. I need to punish Samil the fallen angel way. Naruto stomped down on Samil again, eliciting a groan, which caused Azazel to cease his approach. And why would I do that? This man threatened the life of my charge. His life has been forfeited for a while now. Despite the smile on his face, it was clear that Naruto was exceedingly pissed. Because, you are not allowed to do any such thing, or are you forgetting your father's rules? Oh blah blah blah. So hell bitch a bit. This bastard is going to die by my hand. Naruto's smile had disappeared again and the atmosphere was once again growing heavy. Slowly a sick grin spread across his face. So what are you going to do to stop me? Azazel couldn't do anything to stop Naruto. Naruto knew that. Azazel knew that as well. Fine. But at least make it quick. The smile on Naruto's changed into a frown as he waved away his Rasengan. He then created a single black ball in his hands. There was nothing outwardly special about the ball. His previous Rasengan looked much more intimidating. To anyone who didn't know what it was, they'd assume it to be his weakest attack. I'll make it as quick as possible, and make sure can never come back. Naruto willed the ball to change into the shape of a shakuho. He then slammed the staff onto Samil's head, causing it completely fade away. No noise, no screaming, no nothing. His head ceased to exist. There, much better, you can have the rest. Naruto kicked the body to Azazel's feet. Azazel stared down at his old friend and then sighed. I guess this is what you always truly wanted, huh Samil? Naruto looked at the spot where Samil died for a second before turning towards the Gremory group. Vali has enough of decimating weak enemies, so he just warned them to stay away from them. Certainly, the enemies didn't want to die, seeing Vali's power firsthand, so they didn't attack him anymore. Vali turned his attention to the fight between Naruto and Samil. His grin becomes wider and wider with each moment of the fight, and when Naruto prepared to unleash Calamity End, he couldn't help but laugh manically. Ha 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 ha. That's right, Naruto-san. Show me your power. If you are not this powerful, then my interest in you would have diminished already. When Rias and Issei was transported by Searzek's spell using a castling move, they immediately headed to the clubroom to rescue Gasper and Kaneko. Suddenly they felt a huge shockwave that even shook the building. They still need to rescue Gasper and Kaneko after all. He felt Naruto's power up himself. Just how strong the enemy is to make that Teme power up this much. With that, both began to run faster, heading to the clubroom. With 3 faction leaders and others, suddenly an orange seal appeared in front of them and a figure slowly materialized out of it. Seraphol was utterly shocked seeing her presence and demanded, "Why are you here?" The figure that appeared in front of them is a tall, bespectacled woman with a voluptuous figure. She has tan skin with long brown hair tied into a bun with a headset and blue-gray eyes. She wears a dress that was extremely low cut and had a high slit on it which exposed a large portion of her breasts. Kataria. Seraphol called out her name. The figure in front of them is Kataria Leviathan, the descendant of the former Leviathan. However, she went rogue, because she was angry that some fakers decided to inherit the name of their ancestor. Kataria skeptically looked at the 3 leaders and scoffed. Look at this. 3 leaders of the respective factions decided to ally themselves. What a disgusting sight. What are you doing here, Kataria? Demanded Searzek with a serious gaze. To take over the world, of course. Mao's and God had died. That's why the world need to change as well, replied Kataria with a shrug. However, Searzek narrowed his eyes when she licked her lips and added, however, as a bonus, I will also take a cutie that is fighting Samil with me. He will be my slave and I can do anything with him. Seraphol widened her eyes in rage as the air around her started to become colder. In no time, a block of ice surrounds her feet. I won't let you touch even a patch of hair on my darling, Kataria. If you dare to harm Naru-chan, I will show you no mercy. Declared Seraphol, completely dropped her childish facade and glared at Kataria with chilling eyes. However, Kataria just stared back at her with as much hatred and replied, I see you are pretty fond of him, eh? That will be even better. I will take him away from you, like you have taken my rightful place as the new Leviathan. Then she leered at Seraphol and taunt. I thought about killing you, however I changed my mind about that. I would rather see your devastated expression, when I am gonna take advantage of your beloved. That comment just makes Seraphol even more furious, and the chilling wind states to blow harsher around her body. However, when a hand was put on her shoulder, she calmed down a bit and turned to look at the owner of said hand. It belonged to Azazel and he is grinning amusedly. It's not that every day I could fight against the descendant of original Leviathan, the harbinger of destruction, so I would prefer if you let me entertain her, Searzek? Michael? Both leaders just shook their head to say that they didn't mind at all. Even though Seraphol can be angered very easily when the subject concerned Naruto's safety, however she could also cool down very fast and back to her childish personality. Alright, Azazel-san. Give her a good beating so that she would remember to never tries anything with my darling. Seraphol punched the air and squinted her eyes. Searzek decided to give Kataria the last warning. It will be a waste to kill some devil from pure blood after all. I let you to rethink one more time, Kataria. There is no need for us to fight each other. Kataria just scoffed and replied back, I won't change my decision. Even if you were a great Mao right now, you are still not the original Mao. You didn't have his blood in your veins. You are nothing but an imposter, Searzek. I see, muttered Searzek in disappointment at her reply. It's a shame then. With that said, both Azazel and Kataria began to float up. Both are releasing incredible amount of energy, enough to create an energy cloak around them. Azazel unleashed his wings as well. When the 2 aura clash, the impact is enough to obliterate the magicians floating around them. You are a pretty worthy opponent, Kataria Leviathan. Maybe I should change my outfit, eh? Stated Azazel with a grin and put his knuckle under his chin. TCH, you are just a filthy fallen angel leader. You won't stand a chance against me. Declared Kataria arrogantly and casted 4 magic circles and shoot orange beams from them at Azazel. Azazel skillfully dodged, and when one of the attacks was about to hit him, he casted his own circle to cancel the attack. So far Azazel didn't go to offense and just avoiding and deflecting Kataria's attack. With Rias and Issei, the moment Azazel and Kataria's aura clashed, Rias immediately felt it. Someone else is fighting, Azazel. And, looking up outside, Rias' eyes widened in shock. Why is she here? Issei followed her gaze and asked, "Who is fighting Azazel, bucko?" "That's Kataria Leviathan, the descendant of the original Leviathan. As you know, after the war 4 great Maos died and we chose new Maos." Rias began her explanation, turning to Issei. Issei nodded his head and added, "Yes, they are your brother and Kaichu's older sister." "That's right. Due to the heavy loss from the previous war, all 3 factions decided to sign a treaty. Because if the war continues, then we would all have died out. However, despite that, there are still existed those who wanted the continuation of the war. Rias decided to continue with her way. However, we must do what we came here for. Let's go, Issei." "Hi, bucko. Azazel versus Kataria, they have been going on like that for a while. Neither really attack seriously and just try to measure the capacity of each other. However, nothing can go on forever and Kataria decided to make the first step. Enough of those half-ass attacks. Are you ready to play seriously, Azazel?" wondered Kataria, then casted a spell from her circle. But this time the transparent snakes began to envelope her body and increased her power drastically. Kataria laughed in satisfaction as she could feel the power up in her body. "Snakes?" Azazel narrowed his eyes in suspicion. Suddenly Kataria launched a very powerful attack that released dozens of those transparent snakes. However, Azazel managed to dodge in time and appeared behind her. "For a descendant of the original Mao, that is still too powerful. Who is the one that gave you that power, eh?" demanded Azazel. With Ophis, none of them noticed that Ophis is watching everything that is happening right now. However, she seems to focus on Naruto's battle. The others didn't interest her. Azazel versus Kataria. Kataria didn't reply back, instead channel her magic to her palm and attempt to strike at Azazel. However, Azazel counters it with a palm of his own. "You don't need to know that about because," stated Kataria maliciously, which unnerved Azazel. "The dead don't need to know anything." With that said, Kataria released a huge amount of energy and explode. With Ophis actually applauded, seeing Naruto was the victor of the fight. "Not bad. Your eyes sure have some interesting powers. However, I could see that you have used only fraction of your power. Now I am curious to see you in full strength. Maybe you could help me with goal, if you were powerful enough." Seeing that nothing interesting will happen anymore, Ophis opened the portal and was about to left. She turned back one last at Naruto's location and said, "We will meet face to face one day. I hope you will become stronger when that day will come. Hell, if you prove that you're powerful enough to help me defeat Baka Red, I may let you spend eternity with me." And just that, Ophis stepped in the portal and disappeared within it. With Issei and Rias, they finally reached the clubroom and saw that Kaneko and Gasper was chained to a magic circle. There were at least 10 magicians in the room. Seeing Bucko and Issei appeared to save them make Kaneko and Gasper felt ashamed of themselves due to being captured so easily like that. "Bucko, I am sorry. I failed you," whispered Kaneko with a voice full of grief. She was hanging upside down, unlike Gasper, who was hanging regularly. "Kaneko-chan. Gasper. Hang in there, we will save you guys right away," exclaimed Issei. "You are sure careless, Rias Gremory, to let such a monster so much freedom. It need to be put in a prison and only allowed to go out when need," stated one of the magicians. Rias narrowed her eyes and retort, "Unfortunately, I am one of those that care about my servants. I won't tolerate when my servants was called monster or anything like that. So if you guys wanted to live for a little longer, I suggest you shut your mouth." As she said that, her body began to cover with power of destruction, which unnerved the enemies greatly. But that moment, Gasper whispered desperately, "Bucko, please just kill me." Both Issei and Rias widened at his request. "Oi! What are you talking about? Don't joke like that," exclaimed Issei. Gasper looked at them both tearfully and retort, But I am so useless to you guys and always caused you all trouble. I don't want to be a burden all the time. So if I will get in situation like this all the time, then I would better be dead than live and being a burden all the time." Rias heard his reply and looked at Gasper with soft eyes and said, "Remember when I accepted you to my family, Gasper? I said that I will always accept you and will help you to overcome all your weakness. I may scold you and may sometimes be unreasonable to you. However, I would never abandon anyone from my family. That's why you could cause as much trouble as you want to me. I don't mind a bit. However, stay with me." After such heartfelt declaration, Gasper's tears started to fall down and he whispered, "Arigato." Bucko. Issei grinned widely and rubbed the bridge of his nose, as expect of our Bucko. One magician mockingly clapped and stated, "Bravo for such a touching declaration. However, do you really think we will allow you two to take them away and ruin our plans?" Gasper. "We are all your friends, me, Bucko, Kaneko-chan, Akano-san, Kiba, Asia, Xenovia, and you are not alone and never will be. And if you didn't." Issei then activated his boosted gear and released Ascalon from it. Blade. Boosted gear shouted out, Seeing Issei brought out Ascalon, Rias asked curiously, "What are you planning, Issei?" "Make a first step, then nothing would start." With those words Issei cut himself and thrust Ascalon forward and flick his blood at Gasper's face. "Show them all what you can do, Gasper. You are Gremory after all." Gasper hesitantly licked the blood that was flicked at his face and gained control of his power back. Now that he regained the control of his power, Gasper freezes the time and freed Kaneko. What the heck did he do? Disappeared? No, he just freezes our time. How is that possible though? His sacred gear was under our control. Gasper split himself to dozens of bats and began to suck out their powers and blood. "Kya! He is sucking out our blood," exclaimed one of the magicians. "Not only blood but magical energy too," shouted the other. Issei could only watch in awe at Gasper's power. Seeing Issei's expression, Rias smirked and said, "This is one of his hidden abilities. One of. Just how many does he actually have? Don't tell me he is just like Ice Cube of Sensei of mine?" wondered Issei in wonder. "He managed to control his power thanks to you, Issei, but how did you figure that out?" wondered Rias curiously. Issei just narrowed his eyes in thought. "It's all thanks to that guy Issei is implying to Azazel. He was the one that told him that when his first training started." One of the magicians was about to escape, however Kaneko appeared in front of him and sent her flying back with a kick. The bat's eyes glowing crimson and you could hear Gasper's voice echoing through the room. "No matter what you do it's no use, now that I could properly control my power, I could predicted all your movements." Gasper decided to freeze their time then shouted out to Issei, "Issei senpai, finish them." Issei pumped his fist up and flames of determination blazing brightly in his eyes. Issei crossed his hands and eyes in concentration, then snapped them open and shot long red beams at the frozen figures of magicians, and surely the seal of Gremory appeared on their clothes. Issei closed his eyes again with a satisfying smirk and snapped his fingers and called out the name of his technique. "Dress break Neo." And then instantly the clothes on the figures were ripped apart. Issei began to drool and grinned perversely seeing the nude female figures. "I can't believe it. Now Issei senpai could use that shameless technique at long distance," muttered Kaneko in disbelief. "What is worse, that's his technique." Rias shook her head in amusement. "You did it, Issei senpai." Gasper congratulated Issei, but still transformed to his normal state just yet. "Ha ha ha. See that? My newly improved technique, dress break Neo. Now I could use that at long distance, and then one day I will destroy all females' clothes. When that day comes all girls must walk around nude, muhaha," declared Issei proudly. "Issei senpai, you will always remain the worst," said Kaneko expressionlessly as usual. Rias just shook her head and said, "Now that we rescued both Kaneko and Gasper, we need to return to the others. I am worrying for my brother. With the appearance of Kataria, who knows there may be someone else from old faction will appear." Kaneko, Issei and one bat nodded their heads seriously. While Sirzex and Michael are holding their barrier to protect the frozen ones, Grafia is analyzing the barrier in order to break it. Xenovia and Kiba earned the task to eliminate the rest of the enemies. However, due to the teleportation circle, there were no end of the enemies. Seraphal is staying close to her sister's frozen body and holding the defensive barrier as well. Dragon shot. A familiar voice was heard after that. A red energy ball hit one of the magicians. The voice belongs to Issei, which means they have successfully rescued Kaneko and Gasper. "Issei-kun!" exclaimed Yuto, seeing who the one that assist him was. "I see you guys have successfully rescued both of them." "Yeah," nodded Issei and turned back to Yuto, gazing at the enemies around them. "So what to do now? Beat them until Grafia-san didn't find a way to break the barrier?" "Well, I didn't see the other way out of here," shrugged Yuto, gripping his sword of betrayer tighter. And then they began to fight the enemy around them. Rias went to her brother and decided to leave Gasper for his own safety. "Ni-sama, I will leave Gasper with you." Sirzex nodded his head and said, "Naruto-kun already finished his fight." Rias nodded her head and joined the battle. Kaneko and Xenovia are fighting as well. Gasper, seeing his friends fighting to protect him, felt himself so useless at the moment. Why he must always be a burden to everyone. The enemy's attacks are raining down like no tomorrow. Because of limited quantity, Rias and her peerage are struggling against the enemy. Azazel versus Kataria. The battle between two higher beings still as heat as possible. Azazel has decided to change from defensive to offensive. He launched a couple of holy needles at Kataria, which caused the latter to deflect it with a magic circle. Seeing this fight is getting nowhere, Azazel decided to step up. "You are tough enough to fight on par with me, guess," I will take this fight to the next stage, stated Azazel with calm grin, and put his right hand to the chest area and brought out a small golden spear with a violet sphere at the end of the handle. Kataria narrowed her eyes in alarm when he proclaimed that. What is that? My hobby is something that even more interesting than a war, well, to me at least. This is the Downfall Dragon Spear, the artificial sacred gear that I personally created, explained Azazel with a grin. His grin became even wider when he said next words. Balance, break. His body began to glow golden and it was bright enough to cover his body in the light. Back to Rias. Rias used an enormous defensive magic circle to deflect the enemy's attacks, but her strength was not enough to hold it for long. As a result, she was blasted back to the ground. However, that didn't happen. Rias closed her eyes, expected to be crashed to the ground, but didn't expect to be in the arms of someone. When she opened her eyes, they shone with shock. The one that caught her was none other than Naruto, and he looked down at her with a bored look. Tisk, you should not be this weak, Gremory. Well, like I would want you to save me, stated Rias with an angry huff. Naruto looked slight incredulously at her. Tisk, you have problems, girl. Rias shook her head in deny and retort, of course, you threatened my pawn and I am no girl. Naruto blinked his eyes and replied, it was not a threat, just a warning. He put her gently down to the ground, then turned to the enemy. She won't even need to assist him. Rias decided to return to her brother's place. I see that Naruto-kun has arrived to help us, stated Sirzex with a smirk. Hi. However, I didn't think that he will head straight to a fight like that. He just fought one of fallen archangels after all, wondered Rias with a shake of her head. I don't want to be a burden anymore. Issei senpai. Rias bucko, I want to meet Buckus' expectations and help my friends, stated Gasper with teary eyes. You could see his determination really clearly through those eyes. I will also fight, because I am a man. With that, shouted Gasper, activated his sacred gear. Rias, seeing that, shouted, Gasper. No. Then she turned to her brother that was still calmly holding a barrier. Why didn't you stop him, Ni-sama? Suddenly, the barrier surround them was dispersed, and along with that is the teleportation all circle. That means all the frozen ones were free as well. Gasper. You were awesome. Exclaimed Issei, cut down the enemy with Ascalon. Naruto-kun. Are you alright? Irina arrived to assist Naruto and is standing before him protectively. I am, replied Naruto, and punched the other magician and sent her flying. This is getting boring. Irina looked questionably at her crush. He just winked at her and launched himself at the enemies with a dark sword formed around his hand. Playing Naruto Ost reverse situation. Naruto punched his enemy and sent her flying, then kicked the other and she was sent flying as well. Some decided to use fire beams at him. Naruto, still propelling like a raging beast, dodging all the beams on the fly and send them flying with his slashes and kicks again. Some decided to fire, created a spider web made of beams in hope and stop Naruto. However, nothing could stop him. Like a raging beast, he is charging at them with eyes widen in a crazy way. In those eyes were pair of blazing Sharingan which always looked back and forth to predict and counter enemies' movements. The enemies could only tremble in fear seeing their force being killed by a single person so easily, like a walk in the park. However, it is already too late to regret their past decisions. In the end, Naruto turned his back towards his enemies, with hair shadowed his eyes, but if you looked behind, then you could see the enemies are falling down to earth like rain dropped from the sky. The enemies fell down on each other and form a hill made of them. End of Ost. When that happened, others stopped their actions and looked flabbergasted at Naruto, seeing how he alone fighting all the enemies and killing them so easily. He is like a raging beast that won't stop until all his enemies will be defeated. Shug. Whispered Irina, seeing her crush fighting hand-to-hand combat for the first time. What the heck is that, Teme? Nobody could fight so many enemies with one sword like that, muttered Issei in disbelief. Naruto-san, muttered Yuto in awe and fear. He didn't know that Naruto also skilled in swordmanship. He thought that Naruto often relies on his dragon powers and wasn't very skilled in fighting. However, Naruto proved him wrong this moment. Akano, which was freed from time freeze, shot lightning from her palm at her enemy and obliterated her. Sensing Naruto's energy at the distance, she looked at that direction and saw a very impressive sight. Era. Naruto-kun sure is ruthless. Azazel versus Kataria. When the light died down, Azazel was seen wore by a golden dragon armor similar to Issei and Valis. However, the orbs were violet and the armor is golden in color. His wings is still being released after the transformation. Adding to that, he created a twin-edged spear in his right hand. And certainly Issei's boosted gear immediately reacted to the presence of another dragon. What is that? Wondered Issei as he turned his head towards Azazel's direction. Fallen heavenly dragon armor. Downfall dragon, another armor. Azazel uttered the name of his dragon armor and his wings disappeared. Dragon armor, and that's balance break, muttered Issei, looking up at Azazel. Naruto also looked up to Azazel and thought, I see, so that's what Azazel-san didn't use in our fight, the armor that contained one of Dragon King's. Indeed, if he used that, then I would have to take our fight to the next level. Back to Azazel. Azazel made a come-on motion and taunted Kataria. Well, what are you waiting for? Come and get me. Kataria narrowed her eyes at Azazel, then charged at him while shouted, don't underestimate me, filthy fallen angel. However, another armor powers up Azazel to such a level that Kataria could no longer keep up with him. As a result, she didn't even see Azazel move and pierced her with his twin-edged spear. Azazel's attack was fast enough to tore her clothes and broke her glasses. Her voluptuous body was revealed to the world. Azazel, though, just laughed amused at his power. However, Kataria still not fully given up yet. Her hands became more elastically and she shot her hands at Azazel. This new world won't need someone like you, Azazel. Even if I can't defeat you, then I may as well die with you. Kate shouted and snaked her hands around Azazel's left hand. She planned to take Azazel with her by self-exploding. A suicide plan? Muttered Azazel calmly, however that won't work, the deal is not even equal. When Azazel said that, he used his twin-edged spear and cut off his left arm. That action separates his left hand, which shocked Kataria greatly. Azazel threw his twin-edged spear at Kataria's forehead and obliterated her. Kataria could only scream out in pain one last time before she was erased by Azazel's unholy energy. Feel free to feast on my left arm, though, stated Azazel calmly, even if he just lost his left arm. He released his balance break, no more like the armor disperse itself, then casted a healing magic to stop the flow of his blood where his left arm was. Azazel caught the violet orb and looked at it fondly. It seems we still have a long way to go with you, Dragon King Fafnir. Azazel kissed the orb and turned back to the others. He just cut his arm off easily like that. That's just crazy, stated Issei and shook his head. By now not many enemies had left. Rias ordered for everyone to destroy the rest. Rias peerage together with Sona and Tsubaki plus Irina taking care of the rest of the enemies. Naruto, though, didn't fight anymore and just looked up at Azazel, but he is not exactly looking at him, more like he expected something or someone will come. I wonder why he looks at me like that, wondered Azazel and put his remain hand to his chin. However, he didn't expect for a strike out of nowhere to knock him down to the ground hard. What was that? Wonder. Issei turned his eyes to Azazel's crashed direction. Naruto thought and smirked at the floating figure that just knocked Azazel to the ground. So you finally decided to reveal your true face, eh, Vali? The one responsible for Azazel the moment before was none other than Vali. He looked down at Naruto and replied, I see you were not so surprised by this outcome, Naruto-san. Well, I can't help it, to be a good guy is boring. I hate when it is boring, and certainly being a villain is far more entertaining. Azazel groggily climbed out of the hole caused by his crash, then looked lazily at Vali and said, it seems you decided to turn against us, Vali. However, answer this question for me. When my Vice Commander Shemazai searched for those that will be a threat to three main factions, he mentioned a group called Chaos Brigade. Could you tell something more about that? I am sure you know quite a lot, being one of them, after all. Chaos Brigade. Sirzex repeated the name of the most dangerous organization in the world. The gathering of the most dangerous individuals, added Seraphal. But to achieve that, one would need tremendous power. Who could it be, powerful enough to gather such a group? Wondered Graphia. Though the one that answered her question was not Vali or Azazel, it was Naruto, who crossed his hands and exclaimed logically. The most powerful beings that could possibly gather such a group could only be three beings, stated Naruto calmly and crossing his arms to start the counter. 1 is Great Red, however nobody has ever saw him personally and he didn't has any reason to gather such a group. That means we can exclude him. 2 is Trihexa, but that is not possible either, he is being sealed away since who knows how long. The possibility of him destroyed the seal and escape is unlikely, because it was said that the seal that hold was strong enough that even with 4 Satans and all Seraphs working together won't be able to break it. That means the third option, the Dragon God of Infinity, Ophis. At Naruto's deduction, everybody widened their eyes in shock, though Asia and Issei didn't have a clue who is that. Oh, Ophis, you say? Muttered Rias in shock and disbelief. Issei wondered why that name put so much people in shock. Seeing that, Rias decided to explain to him who is Ophis. The infinite and immortal dragon, the strongest dragon that was said even God feared it when he was alive. Am I right? Naruto wanted to make sure that his deduction was correct, so he looked up at Vali for confirmation. You could deduce even that. You are truly impressive, Naruto-san. That's why I and Ophis took a great interest in you, replied Vali, looking down at Naruto from his position. It's true that I joined force with Ophis. However, neither of us has interest in the world nor trying to dominate it. Those just craved for power will eventually come to us, that's all. Hearing that Ophis took a great interest in Naruto alert lots of people there. Certainly, Searzex, Seraphal and Michael knew that with Naruto's power level it will be inevitable for him to not draw attention from powerful beings. However, hearing that Ophis personally took an interest in someone is very shocking. After all, she was never interested in anything except Great Red. I see, and how fortunately, that your plan matches Kataria's, to return your rightful place, as the descendant of original Satan, right? Stated Azazel and looked at Vali with a knowing gaze. What do you mean by taking a rightful place as the descendant of original Satan? Wondered Rias suspiciously. My full name is Vali Lucifer. Vali decided to reveal his true identity. What? Whispered Searzex in shock. Lucifer, you say? Exclaimed Issei in surprise. That can't be. Muttered Rias and shook her head. Naruto just smiled to show his reaction to this revelation. The blood of deceased Satan is flowing through my veins. I am his direct descendant. The mixed offspring of pure demon and human woman, revealed Vali with a satisfying smirk, but you couldn't see it, as he is in balance breaker state. That is unbelievable. Exclaimed Rias in shock. To think there is a being that was born from a pure demon and a human, muttered Searzex, still quite shocked at the revelation. Vali looked down back at Naruto and stated, it must be fate that I was also turn out to be the host for Vanishing Dragon. One word could describe clearly my existence, miracle. After that he released 8 of his devil wings, which shocked those at the ground greatly. Those wings, stuttered Rias with widened eyes in shock. My lord, whispered Michael in shock as well. This man is and will probably the most powerful white dragon emperor in the past, present and future, stated Azazel. Being a direct descendant of original Satan and also has human blood. I see why you are so confident in your strength now, Vali stated, Naruto looking at Vali with analyzing gaze. However, Naruto scoffed ATND retort, but you are not the only descendant of Lucifer. After that he released 10 of his devil wings, which shocked those around and including Vali himself. Naruto smirked back and crossed his hands. Didn't I tell you I will make sure I have no equal in strength the next time you decide to fight? Make sure you know who is your superior. Vali regained his composure and decided to ask the main question running in his mind. So we are the same, but I must know who were your parents. There is no other Lucifer I know. Azazel narrowed his eyes at Naruto, with the rest ready to fight him if he proves to be hostile. Naruto just smiled and closed his eyes. My father is Minato Lucifer, is the second son of the original Lucifer. In other words, we are cousins or even too close to brothers. Is it not funny how we are so alike? But enough of me, your fight is with your so-called rival. Naruto mocked Vali. Exclaimed Issei and pointed at himself. Interesting. But if he disappoint me, then you will take his place. Naruto-san. Vali set a condition for Naruto. No problem, but we will see his strength in this fight, proclaimed Naruto and glanced at Issei from the corner of his eyes. Issei looked nervously around and thought, what the heck that Teme thinking putting me in a fight against Vali? Sure, I feel myself stronger than before, but it doesn't mean that I could defeat the descendant of original Lucifer. Suddenly he felt someone put a palm at his shoulder. He looked up and saw that it was his Azazel. He looked at him with a light grin and stated, don't worry. Believe in your strength and remember our training. But how could I put up against Vali? My balance break is only for 10 minutes. How the heck I could win in 10 minutes against such an opponent? Complained Issei. Remember the first lesson I gave you. With a proper motivation you could defeat even me. Just keep that in mind. And think about what is important to you, lectured Azazel one last time before walking away. What is important to me, huh? Muttered Issei and dazed out for a bit. Are you done your lecturing, Azazel? Either way I will prove wrong, stated Vali. Issei looked more confident after Azazel's words and slowly walked up to Vali. Listen here, Vali. Azazel is my sensei. Even if he is a weirdo, I will still want to prove him that his faith in me is not a mistake. He is the only one that believes in my strength. Even I myself doubt it. That's why I won't disappoint him. After the proclamation, Issei shouted out and his body began to glow crimson. Welsh Dragon Overbooster. Balance break. Boosted gear, shouted out and covered Issei in dragon armor. With spectators' teeth, that's balance break. Muttered Rias in shock, then turned to Azazel and saw his satisfying grin. But when did he achieve that? Well, the transformation is not complete though, and he could only hold that form for 10 minutes, stated Azazel. His eyes never left 2 heavenly dragons that were about to fight. Only 10 minutes? Will Issei-san be alright, Azazel-san? Asked Asia full of concern. Azazel looked back at Asia and assured her, he will be fine, I didn't train him to lose a fight. After that everybody's eyes turned back to two heavenly dragons that are about to clash. Play Naruto Shippuden Ost Gekia, Issei vs Vali. Vali saw Issei unleashed his balance break and decided to comment, "Ho! Balance break, eh? It seems Azazel didn't really bluff after all. Show what you got, Hyodo Issei." "Here I come, bastard," shouted Issei and launched himself at Vali with impressive speed and punched him. However, Vali caught his fist easily and countered. Not a bad punch, however. Divine Dividing shouted out and sucked half of Issei power out. "You forget about my sacred gear ability, Hyodo Issei," finished Vali and kicked Issei crash to the ground. Issei groggily climbed out of that crater and cursed, "Kuso, I forgot about that. Ibo. It will be a hard fight, just by touching you, he could suck out our power, therefore don't let him touch you," advised Diedrich. Issei widened his eyes and muttered, "Right. I have an advantage as well, nearly forget about that." Vali looked down at Issei from above and stated arrogantly, "Show me your power, Hyodo Issei. This is not all you can do, right?" Issei didn't answer him but stood up silently and rushed at Vali and muttered, "Ascalon. Blade. Boosted gear," said and unleashed the holy blade. Issei attack was unexpected. As a result, Vali left side was slashed. Vali widened his eyes and quick put a distance between them. He looked at boosted gear and saw a blade come out from it. "Be careful from now, Vali. That is Dragon Slayer. That weapon is very harmful for his dragons. Just one touch will damage you badly. Furthermore, I could feel God's blessing in it," warned Albion to his partner. When Vali heard that Ascalon was blessed by God, automatically he looked down at Naruto, who was concentrate in their fight. "Hey, not bad, he still have such an ace up his sleeve, eh?" muttered Vali with an exciting grin. Then he launched himself at Issei and the two of them began to brawl in the sky. Both emanate huge amount of draconic aura. The only one that wasn't affected by them was Naruto. With spectators, Rias and her peerage gape in wonder and shock seeing Issei hold his own against Vali. Naruto glanced at them for a moment and turned his gaze back to the fight. "Shug. Issei-kun is fighting on par with Hakuryuko," exclaimed Yuto. Rias turned her gaze at Azazel and asked, "How did you manage to make him so much stronger, Azazel?" Azazel glanced back at her and replied, "With a proper motivation, Hyodo-san could become very strong, because he have potential and drive." But Naruto suddenly smirked and commented, "But even so it is hard for him to keep up with Vali, who is a descendant of original Satan." When Naruto said, everybody could see Vali speed up and knocked Issei down to the ground with his knee, then used Divine Dividing and divided and absorbed Issei's power once more. "Issei versus Vali, is that all?" asked Vali arrogantly floating above with crossed hands. Issei groggily stood up and glared at Vali. "Damn. That bastard is fast enough to avoid Ascalon, and he even managed to suck out my power again. At this rate I will sure lose to him. Calm down and think thoroughly. Everybody has weakness," Naruto shouted out standing not far behind him. Issei nodded his head at his teacher's words and began to think, Vali must also has weakness, but what is it? That moment he noticed a strange red dust coming from Divine Dividing. He released the energy that he couldn't absorb through his wings. By doing that he will always be in max power, explained Diedrich how Divine Dividing works when the user couldn't absorb all the energy. "I see, no matter how powerful he thinks he is, even he has a limit, that is his weakness." Issei finally understood what Vali's weakness is and smirked confidently. With spectators, Naruto also smirked seeing Issei's smirk. "So you also realized his weakness, eh? It's about time." "What weakness are you talking about, Naruto?" wondered Rias curiously. "Vali weakness is that his body couldn't contain all the energy absorbed by Divine Diving. Because of that he need to release them through his sacred gear. By doing that, his power level will always stay at maximum level. However, Arodeshi's boosted gear has the ability to multiply the power every 10 seconds. What do you think will happen when the kid transferred all those energy to Divine Dividing, eh?" explained Naruto with a knowing smirk. Rias and the others widened their eyes and Yuto answered for everyone. Divine Dividing will be overload and the user will lose control over it. "That's right," nodded Naruto and turned his eyes back to the fight. Issei versus Vali. Issei once again charged at Vali, but without Ascalon this time. Vali narrowed his eyes, wondered why he decided to hide away his ace. He swiftly dodges and shot a white energy ball at Issei. Issei counter it with Dragon Shot and the explosion was occurred. A column of smoke was released from the explosion. Vali is waiting alert for Issei's counterattack. As expected, a red energy head straight at him from the column of smoke. Vali created his magic circle to cancel it. However, that was just a distraction maneuver of Issei. The moment Vali casted his magic circle, Issei rushed at him with maximum speed and thrust Ascalon into Vali. "Do it now, Diedrich," commanded Issei. "Transfer." Boosted Gear shouted out and began to transfer Issei's energy into Vali. Vali widened his eyes and finally understood what Issei attempted to do, but was too late to stop him. Having Ascalon buried in his body, Vali slowly lost control over his sacred gear. To finish him, Issei grabbed both his wings and began to transfer the power into them. "I will overload your wings so much that you won't be able to release the remains of energy anymore. You've underestimated me and now will pay dearly for that," exclaimed Issei victoriously. Then with a battle cry he punched Vali to the chest with the left hand that contains holy energy from Ascalon. Vali grunted and fell down to the ground, but managed to take a kneeling position. "You deserve to be my rival Hyodo Issei," exclaimed Vali and transformed back to his balance break form. "What? Even after the punch of holy energy, he could still have that much power and even transformed back so easily," muttered Issei in wonder. Suddenly the gem in boosted gear began to blip and Issei knows what that means. Kuso. 10 minutes has nearly passed, huh? Now how should I fight him back? Issei then looked down to the ground and saw a blue orb from Valis dragon armor lying there. He slowly picked it up and stated, "Nay Diedrich, sacred gears evolving according to the user's will, right? Interesting, but are you prepared to die for it, Aibo?" Diedrich asked his partner. "Of course not. However, my sensei taught me the fools have an incredible power that could even surpass genius. I'm just fool that can't even believe in my own power. However, if Azazel believed that I could defeat him, then I will gladly prove that to everyone here," exclaimed Issei with fire of determination burn in his eyes. "Ha ha ha. Then as your eternal partner I will make sure we survive this, Aibo." Diedrich laughed at Issei's reckless decision. "What are you planning to do now, Hyodo Issei?" wondered Vali looking at the blue gem in Issei's hand. With spectators, Naruto knew what Issei attempted to do and chuckled, "You are really a reckless fool. However, it will be interesting to see you overcome this trail and become even more powerful." Rias and the others just looked at Naruto questionably and wondered what he meant. Issei versus Vali. Vanishing Dragon. "Vali, I am gonna make your power mine," shouted Issei and crushed the blue gem in his left hand. When the gem was destroyed, it began to emanate a blue energy and boosted gear as absorbing it in Issei's right hand. "Gah!" Issei screamed out in agony as he felt two powers within him fight for dominance. "It hurt like a bitch. But still nothing compared to my hellish training. But even so it still hurt so much, grah." The gem in his right in blipping from red to blue. "You are planning to absorb my power. Foolish, you will only die in vain," stated Vali. "Kiba managed to create a demonic holy sword which was thought to be impossible. Then I will absorb your power within my sacred gear," retort Issei, still squinting his eyes in agony. "What a foolish thing to do. We are like the opposite sides of a coin. It's impossible for our power to coexist within one host, simply suicide," stated Albion. "Albion, as my host sensei has said, fools have incredible power that could make it through anything. You should nt underestimate fools," retort Diedrich. "So what if I am a fool? If could become stronger with my foolish power to protect my precious people to me, then I don't mind being called a fool," exclaimed Issei with eyes still blazing in determination. Vanishing Dragon power is taken, stated boosted gear, and Issei's right gauntlet turned white with blue gem. Everybody's eyes widened in shock. They still couldn't believe their eyes that Issei actually pulled that through. "That's impossible," muttered Vali in disbelief, with spectators. Naruto himself had his eyes widened then laughed slightly, "Ha ha ha." Rias just shook her head hearing Naruto's laugh but also comment, "That is indeed incredible. I never heard that you could absorb the power of other sacred gear into your own." "Issei-san, you are amazing," exclaimed Asia with eyes full of admiration. "Issei versus Vali, this is what I call dividing gear," stated Issei and stood to oppose. "How the heck is that possible? I can't believe it." Vali still couldn't believe what he is seeing. "Even though we pulled through, your life down was greatly reduced even for devils that have very long lifespan," informed Diedrich to his partner. "I don't intend to live long. Just enough for me to create my own harem," exclaimed Issei loudly. Iz looked at Vali and stated, "Now that your power is within me, we can continue, Vali." "In that case, I won't gonna hold back either," said Vali and flew up high to the sky. His wings began to release enormous energy and shine brightly. "Half dimension. Divine dividing," exclaimed Vali. Squeezed into a knuckle and the space around started to tighten. "What the heck is he doing?" wondered Issei. "He is distorting this dimension. It seems he decided to fight Cirrus now," exclaimed Michael. "We are in danger, peril." "That's insane," exclaimed Rias. "Oi, Azazel shouted, "What the heck do you want now?" Issei looked back at Azazel in annoyance. "I want to warn you about that technique. From what I see, this technique will divide everything in half," stated Azazel, then glanced back at the girls behind him and continued. "That means every girl's breast here will be divided in half. Are you fine with that, eh?" Issei's eyes widened in shock at the revelation and thought in despair. That means that Bucko, Akeno-san, Asia and Zenovia's wonderful boobs will be shrinking in half. However, Azazel didn't finish, and if you let that technique to continue spread like that, then all the women boobs will be shrunk in half. "Oi! What nonsense are you saying?" complained Rias with a tick mark on her forehead. "Every woman's boobs will be shrink in half because of that bastard." Issei glared daggers at Vali and his power began to slowly raise up from the rage that is surfacing. "Don't with me, Vali!" screamed Issei in pure rage. "To shrink Buckus Opai in half is unforgivable, but to shrink every woman's Opai is a sin. Like hell I will let that happen." Boost. 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 Boosted gear screamed out and Issei's visors glowing jade in color. "What?" Vali didn't understand what Securite is taking about. End Ost. With spectators Issei versus Vali. Vali looked how much Issei has boosted his power and exclaimed, "You are just full of surprise today, Hyodo Issei. This becomes really interesting. Just you try to shrink Bucko and Akeno-san's boobs, bastard. I am gonna smash you to the ground that you won't be able to reincarnate anymore." Issei screamed furiously. With that he charged at Vali with blurred speed and struck him with dividing gear. "This strike is for Buckus Opai. Divide." Dividing gear exclaimed and divided Vali's power in half. "And this is for Akeno-san's Opai." Issei shouted and slammed his head to Valis and crushed the dragon helmets of them both. Vali could only take in Issei's attack and grunt on pain. "This is for Asia's still growing Opai." Vali received a punch to his face, then one more. "This is for Zenovia's Opai." Putting all his rage and strength in the last punch, Issei shouted, "And finally this is for Kaneko-chan's lowly Opai that have shrink in half then will completely disappear." The final punch was powerful enough to send Vali crushed to the ground. However, Vali could still stood up, thought shakily. He turned to look at Issei, who also landed to the ground and sighed out from the rage that he released. "This is far interesting than I expected. He deserved to see the power of Juggernaut drive," said Vali to Albion. "Do what you see fit, Vali. I, personally, didn't think it will worth the risk," retort Albion. Naruto, being a descendant, have a hearing superior even devils, heard clearly what Vali just said. "Juggernaut drive. Let us see where this goes." Vali raised his fist up and began to chant, "I, who will soon awaken, will overthrow everything from the law of kings. I am the heavenly dragon, who conveys infinity and contemplates on it, the path of white dragon rule shall." However, he couldn't finish the chant as the barrier was suddenly broke. The one who did it is a spiky black hairs young man that is holding a staff. "Biku. Why are you here?" demanded Vali, displeased that he was interrupted in the middle of a fight. "The battle against Northern Assassin was about to start, so I was asked to get you back," replied Biku and put his staff on his shoulder. "I see, so it's finally start, eh?" stated Vali looking at his comrade. "Who the heck are you?" appearing out of nowhere all of a sudden demanded Issei, still kneeling in exhaustion. "Oh ho. So this the new black dragon, eh? I see he is certainly powerful enough to gain yours and that woman attention," stated Biku with a grin. He also put his gaze at Issei and stated with a grin, "Nice to meet you as well, Securite, but we must go for now." Slammed his staff to the ground and created a portal. They began to sink in it, but Vali decided to say some words. "Let's fight more fiercely next time, Hyodo Issei, and expect to fight you as well, Naruto-san." However, Naruto suddenly he felt a presence behind him and glanced back to see a tall and dignified young man with golden hair standing up like a blazing is described as handsome with eyes blood red eyes. He's wearing a white jacket with fur collar, a black shirt and black pants. Just appeared there via teleportation all circle. Before he could deliver the message, Naruto interject him. "Let me guess. It is time." Gilgamesh smirked, which was full of arrogance. "Yes. But it seems you were busy scanning all the mongrels around him." Disgusting devil, this should have bowed in the presence of a king. Tch. "Yeah. I expected that. Let's go then," said Naruto calmly and approached Gilgamesh. The latter nodded his head and teleport them both to the uncounted place. Before he looked at the people in front of Azazel, "It was being around, but I have things to attend to, and Vali tell Ophis she is not the only with an army of powerful beings." With that being said, they vanished, leaving no time here a reply. "Like heck I am gonna let you escape," Issei shouted out and was about to chase after Vali and Naruto, but Sirzex hold his shoulder and remarked, "Let him be, you did a good job for today." Currently, Naruto was a room in the high mountains realm waiting for his partners. However, he felt a shift in the air. Took you long enough. What kept you guys? Asked Naruto coldly as the legendary beings appeared in the room, which was decorated with expensive marble floor. The walls were painted white. On the table were plates with food and wine. There are 5 chairs each with their name tags. I just wanted to know if you're having second thoughts about Shiva's realm location, said Zeref. Naruto opened his eyes to reveal his right Mangekyo Sharingan eye. He had learned from Madara after the transplant that since he wasn't born an Uchiha, the Sharingan in his right eye would remain active when angry. No, said Naruto. I will not stop until I see the gods' realms burn. Naruto then stood up as his Mangekyo changed back into its blue eye. As they both waited in silence for the rest, they did not wait long as Gilgamesh arrived with Eisen Sosuke and Izayoi Sakamaki. Now we all here. I have a mission for you, said Naruto. Looking at Izayoi, Naruto could care less about a mission right now. What is it? Asked Izayoi. Eisen chuckled. He knew that even in Izayoi's current state there was still a piece of the little kid who wanted tough missions and to explore. He scoffed mentally. Those are just childish goals. He has ambitions. The sword of Shannara has been located in the Shiva realm, specifically in the storm of the realm. I want you and Gilgamesh to go there and take the sword and also capture, if not just kill him. Do that and we are closer to our goals, said Zeref. It should provide an excellent test for your newly acquired weapons. Gilgamesh just glared at Zeref. Has anyone noticed that you've been a little more of a dick ever since I beat you? Asked Gilgamesh as he smirked at Zeref. And why does it matter, Gilgamesh? But you do not forget you only won because Naruto saved you, said Eisen. Oh, would you shut up, ya mongrel, said Gilgamesh. Of course you wouldn't care. Gilgamesh gritted his teeth as she stood from his chair. I told you when this team was formed that you didn't have to get along, just cooperate. Now at any point did I say that you could kill each other? Said Naruto, after not receiving an answer. If you don't like the fact that you were on this team, then leave, said Naruto. Otherwise, put aside your differences and start cooperating. Naruto then turned his sights on Gilgamesh. That also applies to you. Either put aside your differences and cooperate, or leave, said Naruto. Now get moving. You're heading out, ordered Naruto. The rest of team followed as they left the hideout and threw their hoods over their heads as they took to the skies. Where are we heading? Asked Eisen. Naruto shook his head. No, you're going to Realm of Lightning, said Naruto. The rest of the team gave their leader a questioning look. Why is he going there? Asked Zeref. Naruto threw his hood over his head. To capture the 8 tails, said Naruto as he activated his Rinnegan. Later Izayoi and Gilgamesh were being transported in the Shiva realm. In order to not draw attention to themselves, they had acquired pure black cloaks to wear over the normal clothes. Gilgamesh knew that if anyone saw his face, or his hair and realized who he was, then they would contact the other gods. He also knew that once word reached the realm they would send an entire platoon of hunters to kill him. Later they were walking through a dark forest which was filled with snow. Ah man. How far are we from the realm? Asked Izayoi. Gilgamesh looked back at Izayoi. Stop whining. It'll be a couple of weeks until we reach the realm, and that's going at full speed, said Gilgamesh. He then looked ahead once more. Let's get a move on, said Gilgamesh before he leapt into the sky. A couple of hours later they had arrived in the Shiva realm, following Eisen's directions, soon found themselves before a large staircase that led up to the shrine of the Sword of Shannara. So this is the Sword of Shannara? Asked Gilgamesh as he looked around the mountainside they were on. The top of the mountain was so high up that the clouds were actually near their feet. Yeah, said Izayoi as they made their way up the staircase. The Sword of Shannara, it can cut open any dimension no matter where or how powerful the place is or the person who created the dimension. With this sword we can enter any dimension without taking hours of flying. Oi! Oi! Who the hell are you? Shiva's gruff voice snapped. For a god you fall short of my expectations, mongrel. Shiva's eyes narrowed in anger, and he snarled, You dare insult me? An unknown like you? For such an insult, I will make sure not a single atom of you survive. Blue aura crackled into existence at Shiva's hands, this time with greater intensity, molding into another spear of greater strength, sending a wave of instinctive dread to all. But to Gilgamesh there was no terror, merely a strange amusement, the sort of amusement you get when you spot an ant trying to swim, a child trying to reach for the sky. It was as if he was facing an opponent who was without a doubt inferior to himself. The spear left Shiva's hands and lunged towards the man at a supersonic speed. The unknown man merely blurred into motion, his right hand flashed and cut through the spear. His right hand now grasped a strange sword-like object covered in rolls of bandages. Ggggggg. A curious sound came from the sword, and the white rolls of bandages rippled. It was almost as if the sword was happy? TCH, this isn't interesting at all. I have lost my interest. Begone, mongrel. The king shall allow you this one grace. Shiva could not believe the sheer arrogance, the sheer haughtiness the man before her held. Hearing the proposal, Shiva's temper flared. Here was a mere kid, a mere human, who dared to toy around with him, Shiva. A god, one whom was even recorded in the Bible. He would not stand for it. Such impudence, such arrogance. Shiva roared, his fists curled up in anger, flying up to a greater height. He snarled, I will not tolerate this. Even though you are just a human, even though you are just a human. You think I will let you boss me around? Die, human. Swords of fire formed into existence around him, its pointed edge aimed towards the man who had incurred his wrath, vibrating with a metallic hum. The swords of light all arced through the air at supernatural speeds. Each sword resembling a shooting star, a streak of heat rained down towards his foe. The blonde-haired man merely raised his sword, pointing it towards the rain of light, looking at the missiles of light that would spell certain death for any typical devil lazily, as if he was merely inspecting an ant beneath his foot. Ggggggg. How dull. Everyone watched as upon contact with the sword-like object, the swords of light immediately dissipated, absorbed by the sword and converted into sustenance for it. To think that you would spit onto my generous favor, unforgivable. For such an insult, I shall quash you like the insect you are, mongrel. At his words, the air rippled and glowed gold, as the weapons he held in his treasury began to move. An instant later, tens and dozens of swords, knives, clubs, daggers, spears, anything that could be called a melee weapon, regardless of their materials, be it steel, crystal, glass, stone, regardless of their various places of origins, be they Western or Eastern, all of these appeared in the empty air behind him in a flash of golden light, and all of these weapons exuded an aura of power, one that belied their history. Taken aback, the people below whispered to themselves in shock, in disbelief, each and every one of those is a sacred relic. A seemingly infinite amount of weapons, golden blonde hair, eyes of azure blue, it cannot be. You are the king of heroes. Shiva shouted in shock, genuine fear crawling onto his expression. Why, you're supposed to be dead. There were reports of your death after you attempted to leave the Chaos Bree. He was cut off by a laugh. Kahahahaha. That name of that band of mongrels is one I haven't heard in a while. They thought they could control me, a king. I showed them exactly why they were wrong. But indeed, I am the king of heroes. I am Gilgamesh and I shall be your death, mongrel. Raising his sword forward, as if it were a signal, the treasures from his vault streaked forwards in a volley, launched from the gate of his treasury. It was this rain of certain death, this swarm of blades, this arsenal of mankind's eldest weapons that lunged forwards, its intent to devour the cur which had insulted its master. The barrage of what was surely the strongest artillery, the strongest arrows and bullets streaked forwards with the force of a comet. Even if you are the king of heroes, do not be so presumptuous. We, the gods, are the ultimate beings. We are stronger than the humans, stronger than the angels, and stronger than the devils. Materializing aura into his hands, Shiva formed it into a spear and magnified it until it was larger than Kuo Academy itself. Snarling with anger, he threw this massive spear forward. Both the ball of blue light and volley of relics collided in midair, their clash erupting with an explosion that held an intensity of a bomb. Light collided against mankind's oldest weapons, and it was as if a miniature star had been created. The world burst into light. When the world regained color, it was to the sight of Shiva floating in the air, albeit panting heavily, and Gilgamesh staring up at his foe with something akin to annoyance in his eyes. I admit that the one virtue of an ant, a cockroach, is its vitality, Gilgamesh stated, his voice low yet seemed to reverberate through the entire clearing. I suppose I will have to do this personally. Ha, ha, Shiva panted, his tone labored, his eyes narrowed in hatred. Do not get cocky, you damn brat. I won't be beaten by the likes of you. Our reign is at hand, and it won't be stopped, it won't be quelled. Who do you think you are, to challenge our evolution, our glorious revolution? Gilgamesh laughed, as if he found amusement in Shiva's words. What utter foolishness. I challenge nothing. I carve my own path in this life, and nothing will impede me. If heaven dares to block my way, I will torch heaven and raze it to the ground. If the underworld dares to restrict me, I will reduce it to ashes and grind it into dust. The air began to ripple once more, yet only a single blade emerged from the void, suspended lazily in the air. This time, it was only one. It was a curiously shaped dagger, made of black steel. Its tip was split into 3 blades. He then held up his bandaged sword, and spoke. Did you know? This sword, Samahata, possesses two curious properties. First, it can cut through any energy-fueled techniques, and absorb it as sustenance for itself. The dagger behind him shot forwards, streaking through the night air at an incredible speed, its aim true to a vital spot. Yet, even though Shiva was exhausted, the toll on spending his magical energy on so many high-cost attacks weighing on him, a single dagger hardly held the capacity to slay him. At most, it was a mere triviality. Leaning to the right, Shiva dodged the blade without any trouble. Is that all you got, human? Yet, Gilgamesh did not appear discouraged by the failed attack. He continued where he left off. Secondly, blurring into motion, he disappeared in a gold dust, moving at a ridiculous speed, in a shadowless flight. A much more accurate description would be that he teleported rather than moved. One moment he was on the ground, looking towards the floating fallen god. The next he was behind Shiva, his great sword raised up in preparation for a vertical strike downwards. It doesn't cut, it shaves. Arrrrrrrrgh. Shiva's pained screams filled the night air. His right arm was clutching his left, or rather, the stump that used to be his left arm. Blood spewed out profusely, not unlike water from a hose. In another streak of motion, Gilgamesh held his sword up once more and cleaved through Shiva's arm, mangling them beyond recognition. The screams of pain Shiva released sounded so brutal, so agonizing that it was practically a sadist's wet dream. The people present instinctively flinched at the screams, tried to avert their eyes, yet their eyes were inevitably drawn back to the sight of their enemy being crippled. It was akin to the sight of a car wreck. You wanted to look away, but you couldn't. My arm, my arm. What ridiculous speed. What did he do? Even I couldn't see anything either. You bastard, Shiva snarled, his face grimacing in pain as he grabbed his back with his remaining hand in an attempt to curb the pain. What do you hope to achieve? Someone who has fallen lower than the scums of the crows on earth does not need any arms to work, does he? So I took the liberty of removing them for you. Bastard, you damn bastard, screaming his anger to the heavens. Shiva used his remaining arm and flew upwards. He raised his remaining palm and faced it towards the heavens, gathered all the light he could muster and focused in onto a single point on his hand. Light curved into a spiral upon his palm, congealing into a gigantic sphere. The sphere of light continued sucking in more light like a vortex, like a black hole. The light pulsed violently and ferociously, as if it would explode at any moment. The people present could not repress the wave of instinctive fear that traveled through them at what was undoubtedly Shiva's strongest attack. That ball of blue light indubitably held enough energy to rival an ultimate-class devil. I will not have my vision of the world be quenched here, perish along with the shit. Shiva launched the light bomb towards the ground. Didn't I just tell you? This sword, Samahata, nullifies all energy-based techniques. Gilgamesh stepped forward and swung. With a single stroke of his arm, he cleaved through the orb of light that held the capacity to demolish an entire city. It was inconceivable. The power Shiva had put into that technique had transformed it into a bomb that undoubtedly held enough power to terraform the entire land, to create a humongous crater where a city once stood. It was a comet, one that should have been unstoppable, capable of disintegrating anything. Yet, the attack could not penetrate through the blonde-haired man who stood before it. As the light made contact with the sword, it gradually lost its luminosity, fading into the great sword. In response, the sword made a curious sound, one akin to a child consuming his favorite meal. Ggggggg. The sword consumed the light, and in less than a second, strongest attack was eradicated. I am possible. Shiva shouted, in disbelief, even though you were just a filthy human. Ho? Is it really that unbelievable? Gilgamesh asks, his tone exuding amusement, that you are so easily defeated. But I do not find it unexpected. After all, you lack awareness of combat strategies. You rely too much on your sheer overwhelming power. You lack variety, skill, finesse, each of which are as important as power. Despite your lust for power, too confident in your own prowess, is it any wonder, really? Riiip. Shiva, his eyes flickering with an intense wrath, let out a feral roar as he ripped one of his other arm. Glaring with all the hate he could muster at his foe, he channeled a small amount of magical energy through the air, sharpening all the wind in it until each of them were as sharp as a blade. If light does not work, then I simply have to use mundane means to eradicate you, human. Ho? Gilgamesh let out a hum of interest. If nothing else, I praise your resolve, insect. Very well, come at me. I shall show you that the blade you wield will never reach me. What? Letting out a feral roar, dived at his foe, the one who inspired such anger, such hatred in him. Embracing the dark emotions welling inside him, he charged. swinging his makeshift blade towards his nemesis. 500 meters separated the two. In an instant, it was 250 meters. In another, it was 150, 21. Shiva swung, his blade aiming to split his hated foe right in the middle. He would not be bested by this filthy human. Gilgamesh's left arm swung into motion, capturing and gripping Shiva's remaining leg just when the blade was mere millimeters away from his jewels, stopping Shiva's blade from moving further. Naruto merely smirked in mirth. Crack. Gah. Shiva screamed in pain as his W leg was broken with a single tug. Naruto then grasped the fallen angel by the throat, and launched him into the air, like one would with a ball. Watching Shiva sail through the air, Naruto raised his free hand. And 3 spirals formed in the air, multiple chains then shot out from the distortions of space. Wrapping around each of Shiva's remaining limbs, binding them and constricting his movement, the chains then pulled Shiva to the ground, plunging and dropping him onto the earth, sending pieces of loose earth up. It took a few seconds, but when Shiva stood up, he desperately struggled, flailing around in an attempt to escape from his restraints, creating a dissonance of metallic rattle, but the chain refused to yield. What is this? Chains of heaven. Enkidu, one of the treasures my ancestor held most preciously to himself. Its most curious property is its strength and durability, which rises proportionally the closer its target is to divine. You, a fallen, I imagine that it would be nothing short of impossible for you to break out of those chains, Gilgamesh explained, his lips curling up in satisfaction. This is dull. I thought I would be able to have more fun with you. This is the end for you, mongrel. Walking slowly, assured of his victory, Gilgamesh dismissed his blade, and in the next instant, a thin sword which held the appearance of an ethereal blade composed of viscous and hardened liquid, its hilt a small gourd, formed in his hand in a shower of golden dust. Groaning in pain, Shiva's eyes diluted in fear, in despair as Gilgamesh slowly sauntered to him, savoring his anguish like finely aged wine. Each step Gilgamesh took, while silent, seemed to reverberate through his entire being, announcing his end. Stamping down his fear, Shiva brought forth the last vestiges of anger he felt and roared. Why is it, despite your power, do you not take action? Are you really satisfied by the current status quo? This monotony, this boring world? Boring? Unfortunately, I do not find the world boring. The entire world is my garden until the end of time. The entire universe is my toy. I have not grown tired yet of such a vast playground. That is your own reasoning. An arrogant view you yourself hold of the world. A true leader has to seek progress. He has to create change. He has to be a visionary. He has to be unsatisfied with how the world is, and chase after his vision of how the world should be. He has to hold within himself a clear image of his version of a better world. I will have a world where the fallen angels reign supreme and domina. Shiva gurgled, as he choked on his blood. He was silenced and stopped from saying further as a blade was plunged through his chest, ripping out from his back and spilling angelic blood onto the ground. You talk too much, mongrel. Now, begone from my sights like the worm you are, and sleep in the everlasting world of drunken illusions for the rest of eternity, filthy rat. No. Shiva screamed, as he gradually melted, pieces of his flesh being forcibly converted to sludge, his skin burning and sizzling as if it were under an acidic onslaught. In an instant, the entirety of Shiva was a mere liquid, which were quickly sucked into the gourd Gilgamesh held. The gourd which previously held a blade, that blade. That accursed Sakagari longsword. Screams echoed hollowly throughout the entire field. All was a ed-up body. We've captured Shiva and the sword of Shannara, said Gilgamesh. Let's get him back. Issei followed carrying Shiva on his shoulder like a potato bag. A few hours later Gilgamesh walked into the main room of the mountain to see his fellow teammates awaiting his orders. Well done, even though you did not have to destroy the realm, but no matter, we have other things to attend to and I will be leading the team for now since Naruto will not be here until he kills or captures Loki. Eisen said true to his word, he is second in command even though he does not talk much. I have my own mission to attend to, said Zeref. To where? Asked Eisen. Zeref's eyes glowed. To the demon world. I think it's time for me to meet Trigon, said Zeref. Zeref was now on the Mishchira getting ready to go to Azareth. After being informed by Naruto, Zeref disappears in a black cloud. In Death Valley, California, Zeref appeared and walked to the very bottom. Time to get this over with, he said. He goes through some seal and a black portal opens and he walks in. In the dimension he sees the monks getting ready for the confrontation with Trigon. Zeref walks to the leader's hut, awaits to be admitted. Azar walks out with a worried look on her face. You made it, said Azar. Zeref nodded his head. Is everything ready? Asked the dark mage. My best warrior and mystics will fight with you, said Azar. Naruto nods his head and walks to the assembled warriors. 2 hours after the preparations are complete, a red and black portal opens. A 12-foot red demon walks out. Finally, I am free, shouted the demon as he walked to the temple, only to get hit in the back by magic. He turns his head and sees several mystics attacking him. He smirks pathetic. He says as he fires a blast taking out the mystics. Trigon continues to walk temple but is struck by a dark spear, but it bounced off. Trigon turns around and smirks. Well, another nuisance, said the demon as he see a blonde-haired man with white robes and red flames on the hem in a green flex jacket. That is as far as you go, Trigon, said Zeref as he glared at the demon. Trigon smiles. How are you going to stop me? He asked, only to get sent back by a powerful force of wind. Trigon recovers and charges. As he is about to punch Zeref, the mage disappears in a black smoke. He reappears and slams a black ball into Trigon, causing him to skids a few feet, but regains his control and fires a black energy at Zeref. Zeref absorbs the attack, dissipates much to Trigon's surprise. You can't be the immortal dark mage, asked Trigon, who is backing up. Zeref smirks. You tell me, demon, said Zeref as he gets his black sword. Zeref charged and trusted his sword, grazing Trigon on the side. Not bad, immortal. Now die, said Trigon as he fires a fireball. Zeref puts his hand out. Dead wave, said Zeref as the fireball disappears. Zeref gets backhanded by Trigon, sending him back while he drops his sword. Zeref opens his mouth. Dark pulse beam, shouted Zeref as a beam of darkness shots out of Zeref's mouth, hitting Trigon, making him grunt in minor discomfort. Trigon frown. What are you planning, boy? Asked the demon. I am going to steal your power. Tiger strike, said Zeref as a lighting tiger appears in the sky and strikes Trigon, shocking him. Dark electricity is more painful, said Zeref as Trigon screams in pain and kneels with electricity surging around his body and his hands twitching in shock. Trigon starts to stand. You think you can beat me, immortal, said Trigon. Zeref turns around and punches Trigon. Come and get me. Here is the target, said Zeref as he starts to run toward the temple while sending exploding bombs to damage Trigon. Hope everything is ready, thought Zeref as he sees the temple in the distance and runs to it. He gets there and sees the circle ink surrounded by the mystics. He looks saddened. Are you sure you want to go through with this, Arella? Asked Zeref. The pale woman nods her head. Needs to be done. Trigon appears. It's time, said Zeref as he goes. Magic signs summoning, he shouts as black clouds show above. The smoke clears and a 10-story snake with 3 heads, his with snake arms, appear. I need you to hold Trigon, said Zeref as he and Arella stand on the snake's back. Point towards Trigon as the snake's eyes narrow. What's the plan? He asks. Zeref is breathing a little hard. Hold him for 5 minutes so we can perform the sealing, said Zeref. The snake nods his head and charges up and lands in front of Trigon as the mystics draw a diagram around Rachel. The snake strike Trigon, sending him toward the mystics. Zeref turns his head. Almost there. Unfortunately, this particular sealing need a soul as a sacrifice, said Zeref as he grabs Arella by the neck and throw her down into the diagram. Soulbind, shouted Zeref as the mystic starts to feel weak and her eyes close. Her body fades, leaving her white cloak empty as it falls to the ground. Trigon realizes what is going on and tries to escape, but white and red beams surround him and latch onto his arms and legs and shrinks him as he then disappears into a black demon crystal. He gets tout and sees Azar and the leaders of Azareth. What do you recommend we should do with the crystal? Asks Azar. Zeref looks at crystal in his arms and sighs. I will be taking it to a safe place, said Zeref. The leader nod their heads. It's settled, you can take it and seen as a hero by the monks, said one of the leaders. Zeref bows his head. Thank you, but it is not needed, said Zeref. Zeref opens a portal and end up back in Death Valley in his world with a smile on his face. Thing might turn out different with this container, he thought. Zeref disappears in a black cloud with Eisen. That's the 8 tails Jinchuriki. All right. He fits the description to a T. Not to mention I am getting this feeling, thought Eisen. Are you the Jinchuriki of the 8 tails? The man looked at Eisen. That be. Are you Lord 8 tails, sir? Fool, said the man, and who be wanting to know me? Da Rappin' Killer Bee. Eisen continued to stare at the 8 tails Jinchuriki. Killer Bee. Why do I always get the weird ones? Eisen asked. To no one particular, no matter. You must be captured. An evil grin as he took his blade off his right hip. Eisen before rushing at Killer Bee. The 8 tails Jinchuriki watched as Eisen reached him before swinging his blade down and striking Bee. Dirt and rock was kicked up from the force of the blow. As it receded, Eisen saw that Killer Bee had grasped the blade with both hands, effectively stopping it. What the? Axe Eisen. Killer Bee smirked. You thought I was weak? Like I was meek? Guess again, creep, said Killer Bee. I am sorry if any of Killer Bee's rhymes suck, but I am not a poet, nor a rapper. As he stood up, using his physical strength, B took the blade and struck Eisen in the head, causing it to burst into glass within a few seconds. Eisen reformed. "Why, you little bastard? That didn't work, but it hurt like hell," said Eisen. "B," said a voice in B's head. "What is it, 8 Tails?" thought B. "That man, you should be careful around him, he smells like death," said 8 Tails. B's eyebrows rose slightly. "You sure he looks fine to me, yo," thought B. "It's been a while, but I am positive that the man is a Shinigami," said 8 Tails. "Fa show," said B. He then pointed at Eisen. "You know who I am, but you wouldn't understand my reason for why I am here to capture you," said Eisen as he slid his katana out. "You ain't gonna be capturing me because it just ain't meant to be," said B as he hurled the executioner's blade at Eisen. The Shinigami quickly jumped left to avoid the blade before looking up and going wide-eyed as he saw Killer Bee coming down at him from above. "I float like a butterfly, but I sting like a killer bee." B shouted the last part as he slammed into Eisen, causing an explosion of rock and dirt. When the dust cloud settled, it revealed B to be standing over a fallen Eisen. "You weren't much, now I can go have my lunch," said B. However, his eyes widened as he saw Eisen suddenly disappear in a shatter of glass. Thought B. He then quickly turned around only to be struck in the jaw by a jaw-shattering punch that sent him flying back several hundred feet before skidding to a stop. Sitting up, B looked toward the cause to see Eisen with his left fist extended out, but his left eye was gold with triangle pupil and the area around his eyes were green. "Is that all the 8 Tails Jinchuriki has to offer?" asked Eisen. "Demon Eye mode," B grunted as he stood up. "So he has access to the Demon Eye mode, huh? Guess I'd better stop foolin' around, or I'll end up the fool. Ya fool," thought B. He then proceeded to unsheath all 8 of his swords and, using every free part of his body, wielded all 8 at once. Eisen quirked an eyebrow. "Behold the master of the 8 sword style, that be me, Da Rappin' Killer B. We," said B before rushing at Eisen. Grasping his katana firmly, Naruto raised his sword in time to parry a blow before the two opponents began running around the battlefield at high speed as they clashed. Eisen and Killer B came to a stop in the middle of the battlefield. Eisen was panting as his Demon Eye mode ran out. "I didn't have enough time to gather enough power for a prolonged battle with this guy. On top of that, I do not have time to play around. Guess I don't have a choice," thought Eisen as he closed his right eye. B watched Eisen with a quirked eyebrow. "What's this fool plannin' to do?" thought B. He watched as Eisen's right eye opened to reveal that his pupil had shifted into white and looked like a broken mirror. "Illusion," thought Killer B. Reality. Eisen watched with a satisfied smirk as Killer B collapsed on the ground. Deactivating his eye, Eisen walked over to the 8 Tails Jinchuriki. "Good. Now with the 8 Tails captured, I can get to the hidden leaf and execute the elders," thought Eisen. However, blood gushed out of his chest as B slammed his arm into Eisen. "Lariat!" shouted B as Eisen was blown back several feet before landing on the ground and skidding to a stop. "Fool. Ya fool. Genjutsu can be broken if ya have a partner to disrupt your chakra flow. My partner is the 8 Tails sealed inside me," said Killer B as his skin began to peel away and red chakra began bubbling out of him. Genjutsu is useless on a Jinchuriki who has control over his tailed beast. "Get ready to feel the sting of the Rappin' Killer B. We," shouted Killer B's voice. Eisen to look up only to go wide-eyed when they saw not Killer B, but a monster ox with 8 octopus tentacle-like tails. Eisen tried to himself with a Keto spell, but before he could he heard Killer B should and interfere. "Not a chance. I blow ya away before then," shouted B. 8 Tails form. As he opened his mouth, a sphere of black chakra formed as he aimed it at Eisen. Before he got the chance to fire the attack, he was struck by a strange water creature that forced his head upward, breaking the attack in the process. Looked at the creature only to see that it was water monster floating in the center. Killer was about to question himself further before he heard a loud gasp and looked down to see Eisen, fully healed, gasping for breath. Relief washed over the brown-haired man. "Damn. I guess I have no choice but to use that," thought Eisen as he activated his Demon Eye mode before Eisen closed. His blood leaked out of his right eye before he opened it to reveal that it was bloodshot. "Inferno blade cut," shouted Eisen. Suddenly, Killer B was shrouded in black flames that began to burn him alive. B screamed out in pain. Lashing out with one of his tails, B attempted to strike, but Eisen quickly used his Keto, charged with lightning energy, to cut the tail away. Thrashing about, B fell back into a large lake before going under. Eisen covered his right eye as he waited to see if B would resurface. After a few minutes, B's burned body resurfaced. Walking over, Eisen used his torn black cloak to cover B as he lifted him and slung him over his shoulder. "I've captured the 8 Tails," said Eisen. Issei and his team, which consist of Rias, Akano, Kaneko, Kiba, Xenovia, Irina and also Sona, Tsubaki, Saji, and Rosweiss were currently holding off Loki, the Asgardian god, until Odin managed to teleport Mjolnir to the battlefield in order to help them defeat Loki. Issei, currently in his balance breaker form, was engaging Loki with the help of Rias, while the rest were fighting against Fenrir and his two children Hati and Skoll, and also the Midgardsormr clone. Akano, who accepted her fallen angel powers thanks to the help of Issei, took down the Midgardsormr clone with a powerful attack which combined both her holy lightning power and her elemental magic power. Meanwhile, Xenovia, Kiba, and Saji, who were injured by Locust's large-scale attack, were healed thanks to the Phoenix Tears and was now resting and looking at Issei and Rias fight against Loki, smiling knowing that Issei and Rias will emerge victorious from the fight. Issei was panting while he avoided yet another attack from Loki. He was extremely frustrated because so far he and Rias couldn't even land a single attack, while Loki managed to land a few powerful hits on them, injuring them in the process. It's not working. We can't even land a single attack on him. If we keep going like this we will die. Issei, who was clearly frustrated, said to Rias. Well, right now we need to hold Loki off until Odin-sama managed to teleport Mjolnir here, Rias replied, bothered by that as well. Issei was about to launch yet another attack on Loki when he saw something attaching itself to Loki. What the heck is that? Issei said, not knowing what the thing that was holding Locust's leg was. Really, Hyodo? That's what you say? You should be thanking me for saving your ass, Saji shouted to Issei. Oh, that was you, Saji. Thanks for the help, Issei said thankfully, smiling to his friend and rival that came to his help. Okay, now I am going to send you back to where you came from, you war freak god. Issei shouted at Loki, happy that he now had a chance to hit him. Dragon shot, Issei said with a triumphant smirk on his face while launching his attack on Loki. Ah, you dare to hurt me, you devil weaklings? I who is a god? Now you should feel my WRA. The now damaged Loki started to say, but before he could finish his sentence a magic circle caught his attention. A magic circle from Asgard appeared and from it emerged Mjolnir in its full glory. Loki looked at the magic circle first with curiosity, wondering who his father sent to help in the fight against him, until his eyes suddenly widened while also frowning when he realized what it was that came out of the magic circle. Mjolnir. Loki said, shock evident in his voice, but before he could do anything else Rosweiss suddenly appeared next to Rias and Issei. Message from Lord Odin, if the Red Dragon Emperor is there, leave it to him, Rosweiss said. Me? I don't think I will be able to do this, Issei replied, surprised by what Rosweiss said and also unsure if he will manage to do this. Don't worry, Eyes. I know you'll do this, I believe in you, Rias said, trying to encourage her adorable servant. Issei just smiled and nodded before he dashed toward the hammer in an attempt to grab it. Everyone is counting on me to do this, so I better pull this off or I won't be able to confess to Bucko and the girls. I need to keep Bucko and the rest safe so I could achieve my dream of becoming the harem kind. Issei thought, determined, which was quickly replaced by panic when he thought about something he hadn't thought about before. I don't know if I'll be able to even lift that freaking huge hammer, let alone attack with it, Issei contemplated, starting to panic when he realized that he might not be able to even lift the hammer. Don't worry, partner. All you need to do is boost a few times and you will be able to lift the hammer, Diedrich told him, clearly knowing what to do. Issei acknowledged what his partner said and did not respond. Boost. X5. Diedrich's voice echoed through the battlefield. Hearing this, Issei's team smirked. They were certain that Issei will manage to win against Loki without a problem now that he got Mjolnir. But their smirks vanished and looks of pure horror replaced it when they saw what just happened. Here I go. Issei shouted eagerly while reaching for the hammer and was about to grab it when suddenly he was bitten by something large, piercing his armor and body in the process. Issei, who was now forced out of his balance breaker form, was violently thrown into a cliff. Partner. Are you okay? Diedrich roared through the gauntlet in worry for his partner who was badly injured. Issei, who by now was already in the bottom of the cliff lying on the ground lifeless, suddenly heard the person he loves the most shouting his name in panic. Issei. Hang in there. Issei, Rias said, tears starting to form in her eyes. Be Bucko, Issei said, struggling to cling onto his life. I am sorry, Bucko. I failed at the most important moment again. I wasn't able to protect the rest. Issei continued sadly that he failed in his mission to win against Loki and protect his friends. Don't speak. Rias replied with a voice full of dread. Bucko, please run, Issei replied to her, wavering. No. If you die, I won't be able, Rias replied with a voice full of sorrow, with tears now flowing from her eyes. Suddenly Issei tried to reach with his hand toward Mjolnir but failed. Hammer. The hammer, Issei said. Eyes, please stop, Rias said in sadness. No, Bucko, I swore to protect you and the rest. I failed. I am sorry, Bucko. I didn't even get the chance to say that I lo. Then he was gone, lying lifeless in Rias' hands. Rias gasped when she saw Issei lifeless in her hands. Then she let out a scream full of anguish and agony. Issei, no. The rest of the team stared at the lifeless body of Issei, appalled and with horror clearly written on their face from what happened. They were all sobbing from the loss of their friend. Loki was smirking while looking at the events that transpired. He was now sure that now with the Red Dragon Emperor dead, no one will interrupt his plans to start Ragnarok. That is until he saw a magic circle and out of it came the White Dragon Emperor, followed by another Nekomata with a busty figure with black hair and a kimono, and also a blonde man with glasses with a powerful his hand. Loki, who was now immensely annoyed, cursed at his bad luck. He never thought he will have to fight with both of the heavenly dragons. Damn it. I never thought that the White Dragon Emperor will appear. He should be no problem to someone like me if I wasn't exhausted from my fight with these devils. Vali, with the addition of Kuroka and Arthur, appeared on the battlefield. Okay, he should be here, Vali said while moving his head to the side searching for something. Found it. Nya, Kuroka playfully said while pointing at Fenrir. Vali nodded and entered his balance breaker form, Vanishing Dragon Balance Breaker. Albion voice echoed through the battlefield, surprising everyone. The devils were looking at Issei's lifeless body when they heard Albion voice and turned around to see Vali and his team. Vali? They all said in wonder and confusion except for Kaneko. Kuroka ne Sama, why are you here? Kaneko asked, frowning, fearing her sister came to take her. Don't worry, Sharon. I'm not here for you, Nya, Kuroka playfully said to her sister, with a playful smirk on her face. Then why are you here? Kaneko replied, wondering what her sister was here if not for her. For that, Kuroka replied while pointing her finger at Fenrir. Kaneko was going to ask her sister what they wanted to do with Fenrir, but before she managed to speak a loud howling was heard. They all looked in the direction of the noise only to see Vali holding a chain attached to a collar around Fenrir's neck, and to everyone's shock and bewilderment Loki was now lying on the ground unconscious. Kuroka, let's go, I got Fenrir, Vali said to her. Nya, that was quick, Vali. I barely had time to talk with my sister, she replied, cocking an eyebrow in surprise at how quickly Vali managed to capture Fenrir before she went to Vali, who was visibly bothered by something, and Arthur. See you later, Sharon, Kuroka shouted to her sister before teleporting away. After Vali and his team disappeared, everyone was still wondering why they were here and what they wanted to do with Fenrir, but they were most surprised by how easily he took out Loki even without Mjolnir's help. They were all deep in thoughts until a sound of sobbing snapped them out of their thoughts. They all looked and saw Rias, who started to sob again, her head in Issei's shoulder embracing him tightly. Eyes, my adorable servant, why did you leave me? We still had things to do together, Rias said, stuttering a bit while crying. I can't deal with this, I don't think I can live anymore now that you are gone, she continued. Rias. Akeno said in a soothing tone, trying to comfort her friend, but she as well felt the same as her. I love you. We love you, me, Akeno, Asia, Kaneko, Zenobia. Rias said, confessing her feelings to the now deceased Issei Hyodo. The girls were quiet, but they all agreed with what she said, they all truly did love him. Suddenly Loki started to release a powerful aura, his power of chaos starting to flare up. Fuhaha, his attempt to kill me futile, I am a god, mere devils like yourself are nothing, now you will die. Both Akeno and Sona looked at him in fear while the rest were just staring at him with wide eyes. Eyes. I cannot deal with you leaving me, leaving us. I don't think I can continue to live anymore when the person I love dearly is dead. Rias, who by now stopped crying, said with a voice that sounded a bit unsure. Everyone looked at Rias, astonished by what she was saying. Yes, cry for that pitiful devil, but don't worry, you all will be joining him soon enough, Loki said as he held up his arm with his palm facing the sky. A white and blue aura started spinning around his palm and biomes bigger by the minute until it became the size of a mansion or big house. Rias, Akeno, Kaneko, Kiba, Zenobia, Irina and also Sona, Tsubaki, Saji, and Rosweiss could watch only in horror as the blue and white ball hurled straight for them. Now die, devil scums, Loki shouted. Devastation ball. All they could do was wait for the deaths and close their eyes, waiting for the impact. Boom! Loki suddenly had an enlightened expression on his face as it fell down to see there was a shield protecting the devils below, with a frown on his face. As a demented growl escaped his lips, I don't understand, nobody could have stopped that attack. Who th? Loki of son of Odin, the voice asked from far away. Rias instantly turned back to face the new voice. Who's there? Rias, Akano, Issei, Asia, and the rest all turned back to see who was the one who said that, as they turned to see Naruto standing on a cliff with a bored expression, hands in his pockets. Naruto-kun, Irina cried out as she looked up to him. What are you doing here? She asked as Naruto looked at Irina and smirked. I came to collect a piece of trash, Naruto said as he looked at Loki, but it seems you are in deep trouble, huh? He commented as Loki narrowed his eyes. So weak, Loki said arrogantly from the sky, sensing Naruto's level power. Do I really seem so weak to fight me? A soft laugh escaped his lips as he shook his head. No matter, you are all gone, vanish in a few minutes and all of you will be dead. I am sure that will teach Odin not to underestimate me next time. Loki placed his hands on his hips as he chuckled, looking down at everyone with glaring condescension. Naruto did not bother looking at him as he scanned below at the damaged devils before he saw something that caught his interest, the body of Issei, which was dead. The Red Emperor Dragon did not last long, pitiful Aknologia stated with amused tone. Naruto frowned. This is a problem, it hinders our plans, without him it won't work. Sigh, that kid just had to make shit more difficult. No worries anyway. Just a small problem. Naruto's eyes widened. Trash, you think I am weak? You are mistaken. Weak are those who talk the talk and then get their asses handed to them to the moment they get in a fight. What I am is not weak, I am superior and I have raw power and cunning. I need to back it up. Doubt it will cost you your own life, but enough talk. The area seemed to be cracking with the power Naruto was displaying. Loki gazed into the twin pools of eternity so long that he thought he had cast an illusion on him, and all the while he was falling into a deep abyss in which only endless torture and death remained. Loki dropped to the ground on his hands and knees, gasping for air. He knew right there, if he fought this this monster, he will die. Every muscle in his body was telling him to run away. Loki, you are nothing but a drop in the ocean compared to my power. Today you will know a true Lucifer, Naruto stated as he looked up at the night sky, which had turned red thanks to the barrier he had placed. I want to see how strong you are, Yuto admitted with a small smile, already getting the feeling that Naruto would win easily enough. Xenovia smirked lightly, and leaned against her sword sticking out of the ground. She was having doubts that she would have to do anything at all with Naruto here. Of course she was wondering why he didn't have his wings out. Why aren't your wings out? Akano asked after a moment, and Naruto closed his eyes. I only use my wings when I am about to fight someone who is stronger than me, Naruto said without even a hint that he was lying. Play music. Papa Roach, last resort. Watch closely, partner. You are about to see how a dragon god fights even when holding back, Aknologia told the devils with a slightly serious expression. The devils' eyes widened when Loki summoned a strangely shaped javelin of pupil aura that had white rings around the middle of the dark attack. He lazily flicked it at them instead of Naruto, and they were about to move out of the way before Naruto pointed a hand at them. Dark Pulse Destroy. Naruto spoke smoothly as a dark energy wave destroys the javelin-shaped spear of the attack exploded and created a crater in front of them, but the barrier held strong. The barrier dissolved on its own now that the job was done, and Loki smirked at Naruto. So you have the power of Hell Emperor. I wouldn't want this to be too easy, Loki said, and Naruto smiled for a moment. Loki coming here alone was something that he was pretty sure didn't happen. The guy always had a backup hidden somewhere, even if he didn't use it right away. His eyes shifted slightly to the ground, and his eyes closed when he saw many wolves on the ground. They were just waiting to be killed. He uses hell magic, Yuto said with a good amount of shock over that. Hell magic was the hardest subsection of magic to learn, simply because with it you have to have a moving power and imagination to use it. Then there is the skill itself required to use it without a wand or staff to help control the power, which meant that Naruto was an expert. Los Lobos, Naruto said when they saw black blood hit the ground in front of Naruto. Before they saw the bored look on his face, Loki noticed as well, and he was visibly worried for a second. Once the blood stopped, Naruto held his hand out over the blood spots on the ground, and looked at Loki. I am gone, drown you in the bloods of Abyss, Naruto stated with a bored. Loki scoffed at Naruto, before throwing a thunderbolts at Naruto. Naruto held his hand to the side, before a dark disc appeared in it, moving his hand in front of him. The disc absorbed the bolts while glowing in size to the small car. Hell's reflection, Naruto said calmly, and everyone looked alarmed when the black blood Naruto had shed earlier started to float into the air. The blood started to circle around each other, before becoming larger and gaining more energy out of nowhere as they multiplied. Soon energy was circling around Naruto, while being about the same mass as a small house. The energy changed shape constantly, before it settled for the black wavering form of a long snake with horns, mouth open. The snake created from blood took the disc into its mouth, before the head of the blood-based creature started to go after Loki. Loki went up into the air, but the snake just went down. Let's see how the pets handle my power. Snake maneuvered in mid-air. Naruto held his hand out at the chunks of ice on the ground. Before they all started to fly together and went inside the tail of the black blood snake, they went deep inside the snake creation, before they reappeared in the creature's mouth as ice teeth. Soul execution, Naruto stated calmly as he pointed the tip of his index finger at the giant dogs, and black lightning sparked a few times before growing larger and larger before it fused with the snake of sparking black lighting. Once it was fully charged, the snake shot out at the dogs like a beam of electric destruction. The lightning snake went straight through the dogs, before exploding, making a huge dorm of black energy, leaving nothing behind. Naruto sure is scary with how strong he is, and he hasn't yet used more than one hand for this entire battle. He hasn't even moved from that spot. Irina thought with a small blush on her smirking face as she her crush in front of them systematically destroy everything Loki used against him. Before turning it against him, this kid is a monster, Loki thought. Noro held his hand out and pointed it at Loki. Hado black bind, Naruto said as a black AC energy flew into Loki's chest, before the ground around him turned into black iron sand and wrapped around his chest and arms to trap him. Naruto started to walk towards Loki, with his sword at his side. Loki only had a second to look at Naruto, before he stabbed Loki with devastation in the chest as the sword sank into his chest full. Loki's eyes rolled at the back of his head and fell numb to the ground. Like I said, I have no equal. You are either stronger or weaker, never the same level, Naruto said to the dead-like body of Loki. Naruto turned his attention to the rest of the group behind him as they went stiff, thinking he will finish them off, and they were scared shitless at the power he showed. Stay calm, I have no intention of fighting, but the kid there, I need to help him, Naruto stated while pointing at Issei. How, he is dead? He's been dead for a while. Or is this some kinda sick joke? Shouted a emotional Rias. Stop screaming, girl, I can revive him from the dead, just need you to listen and shut up, said a very annoyed Naruto. He was really close to killing this girl. After that statement, everybody was shocked he could bring Issei from the dead like some kinda god. How can you do that? Akano acts in shock and disbelief. Naruto just closed his eyes. When he opened them, they were dark purple with 4 rings before going through a couple of hand signs. A ghastly figure seemed phase through the ground, purple flames sprinting to life until it became the size of an average adult height. The king of hell opened its mouth as green pooled into the lifeless Issei. After a second his body started to twicketh before he opened his eyes, seeing Rias and the others. Rias, where am I? Wait, I thought I was dead? Issei shouted after a moment of remembering, and all the while everybody was shocked to see Issei alive again. Rias, reacting really fast, kissed him on the lips with tears streaming down her cheeks. Everybody was happy with a shell-shocked Issei being kissed and also hugged by Rias, while Akano looked away from the sense to hide her jealousy. Issei Hyodo, everybody tensed and turned to see Naruto looking bored. Nothing more, seeing he has their attention. I revived you from the dead, next time do not die, I will not be your guardian, stated Naruto. He looked at Irina and walked to her, being close. Irina blushed, she felt Naruto's hand cup her cheek. She looked upwards to see his eyes full of love and relief. She saw him lean forward and kissed her lips. She was shocked, so were the others, some jealous. She closed her eyes and kissed back. She was in cloud 9, his lips were soft. Naruto stopped the kiss and looked at Issei. The only reason you are alive is I need you to protect her. If she does, I will hunt you down, understand? Naruto asked with a stern voice. Issei, not wanting anger someone who saved his, just nodded his head high. I understand, I will protect and grow stronger, said with fire in his eyes. Naruto just smirked. I will be leaving now, as Naruto took Loki's body and vanished before anyone could stop him. Naruto had called everyone to his room for an important announcement. So Naruto, what seems to be the issue? Asks Eisen. We're going to need a lot more members for what I have in mind at the moment. Where would we get new members? At the most you could only resurrect about 3 or 4 more people, says Eisen. Naruto smirks and says a certain someone will be more than willing to lend us a few thousand. Grimmjow, catching on, put on a matching smirk of his own dark side. Naruto nods and crosses his arms as he speaks. Indeed, she will most likely come back soon to try and capture me again since I escaped last time. Here's what's going to happen. I am going to open a portal using the sword of Shannara to the dimensional gap. It won't matter if he's expecting us or not. Once we get there, we're going to convince her to give me temporary control of the Dark Legions. How will you do that? Last time you fought him you came back looking like shit, says Grimmjow, not sugarcoating his words. He will attack to try and get rid of me. When he does that, Eisen will take the blowhead on, he says. Eisen allows himself to smile a bit as he knows exactly what his plan is. You, Grimmjow, will then disarm him after Eisen is done, Naruto finishes. Hey, sounds good to me, he says. Naruto stands up and pulls out Shannara and slashes downwards, and a black void opens up in the floor. Let's go pay Darkseid a visit. With that they were gone. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX lives? Asks Grimjow with his hands in his pockets looking very unimpressed. You'd think a Darkside would live in some sort of giant cave with lava in the ground. Lucifer, you saved me the trouble of going to find you once again. They hear a dark voice from behind them. There stood Darkside looking the same as he had the first time they fought. You won't get away this time, he says before creating a giant black ball of energy and shooting it at them. Eisen, Naruto commands. Knowing it was his time, he jumped in front of the attack and didn't bother to defend from it. The blast created a giant smokescreen. Naruto and Grimjow merely closed their eyes knowing that Darkside wouldn't attack at that moment as he's that arrogant. Once the smoke cleared, it revealed a burned and barely alive Eisen Sosuke. He exhaled from his mouth and some smoke came out. I am surprised that you survived that. No matter, you won't survive a second one. Before he could attack, however, Naruto speaks up. Prepare to be even more surprised then. Heaven gift, says Eisen as a white dark pool forms around all of them. Darkseid, however, falls to his knees before falling on his face, unable to move. What have you done to me? He asks from the ground. It doesn't sound like he's in pain, but they know he won't be moving. I've lowered your resistance to your own energy. Your body is treating it as poison now and it's killing you from the inside out. Don't worry though. I am not going to kill you. Eisen explains before forming a small black liquid ball and letting it hit Darkseid. Grimjow, Naruto said blue-haired man teleports over to here prone form and looks down at him before unsheathing his Zanpakuto. With 2 quick slices he removes his arms from his body. They saw as his face twitched with discomfort, most likely trying to regrow his limbs only to feel pain when his energy started to harm her more instead. Naruto kneels next to him and speaks. Now here's the thing. I am in need of some help for something important, and I remembered that you had a few people you could spare. You're going to call a meeting of Dark Legion and inform them of a temporary change in leadership. You have no idea what you've just done, Lucifer. I do not take orders from you, not even in my current state, he says from the floor. Hey, funny, he talks like she has a choice, says Grimjow. Do you remember last time we fought? You allowed me to attack you with what you thought were simple missiles when in reality I was able to implant a few chakra rods small enough to go unnoticed. Either that or you just believed they were of no concern to you. Just in case I ever needed to use them. Good thing too. You were proving to be incooperative. Naruto says as he stands and activates his Rinnegan. Putting his hands in the ram hand sign, they watch as Darkseid body starts to shake before 6 rods pop out of his chest. Now to have you release a blast of power that everyone will feel. A few seconds later, hundreds of portals begin to open and people begin pouring in. Some stood out to the trio. Kevin 11, Black Lantern Kratos, Red Lantern Rockner. Good afternoon everyone. As you may or may not know, my name is Uzumaki Naruto, though I guess you could call me your new leader, he says as he steps aside and lets everyone see the downed form of Darkseid. Eisen noticed the Kevin narrow his eyes at them, though he could tell it wasn't out of concern. There's some things we need to talk about. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. Hours later, well, I think that went rather well, says Naruto lounging on the couch at home. There's one thing that I want to know though, starts Grimjow. Once Naruto's attention was on him, he continues. This plan of yours. How will your little girlfriend react to it? I will explain to her either at the meeting or after. Eisen, did you put him in the tube? Asks Naruto. Yes. I even threw a few more gift ball at him to make sure he stays down, he replies, drinking his coffee. Good. If you'll excuse me, there is one more piece of business I have to attend to, he says before a magical circle appeared underneath him. Things are about to get more lively, says Askin, sighing knowing he'd have to do work. I know. What a crazy bastard. Oh well, I can tell it's going to be fun, says Grimjow. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX Axed Virgil as he looked at the massive tower hovering over a city that was covered in mist. The city itself was fairly large, and he could only see a part of it due to the mist that covered most of the sprawling mass of buildings, which meant the city was much larger than it appeared. The only thing that he could really make out was the tower, a large spiraling mass of stone and mortar that looked like your stereotypical evil dungeon, with sweeping staircases and buttresses of all kinds on outside, along with several large, pointed towers and statues of various animals that Virgil could not recognize. So damn thing is in there. Yes, answered Virgil as he too looked out at the city. That city is called the City of Ghosts and Apparitions. The castle above it is called Maze Castle, and is the fortress of the 4 Saint Beasts. Most of the demons living in the city are small-time, Issei class. However, the two saint beasts are said to be more powerful. How do you know about these two saint beast guys anyways? Asked Virgil. You've been up for like 100-something years, haven't you? A tick mark formed on Yamato's head at being reminded how old he was. However, he didn't let him know how his words irritated him because they formed about a year before I was forced to live in the human world. While they aren't that powerful compared to some of the demons in Makai, they are powerful enough that they were able to take over this city. They are also vastly more intelligent than the demons I have had you face thus far. Demons that lived on the plains of Makai were generally very stupid, lacking in everything but the most basic forms of instinct, while some of them, like the greater fiends in the Oranjora, had a lot of power. They did not have the brains to properly use that power. Virgil nodded before he turned to Yamato and grinned. You coming? Yamato looked at him with a blank expression. No, he said with no emotion, and vanished in thin air. Virgil grumbled for several moments before blinking as several ghouls surrounded him. Not in the mood to deal with these small fry, he growled. What the hell do you pricks want? The ghouls ignored him, however, as they talked amongst themselves. Such a delicious smell. He looks so tasty. Let's eat. Several large tick marks formed on his head as the ghouls spoke. Oi. I suggest you all shut the up before I rip your goddamn intestines out of your throat and shove them up your ass. He let loose a small amount of his power and killing intent, small being a very relative term. What Virgil did was release around maybe 10% of his power and killing intent. However, 10% of his power was on class with an B-ranked demon, and therefore much more powerful than anything these ghouls had likely ever come across. Therefore it was no surprise when the moment he unleashed his power, the ghouls high-tailed their asses out of the blonde's vicinity. Virgil snorted before going on his way, grumbling about asses and dickheads and how they were going to regret leaving him alone the whole way. Meanwhile, within the maze castle, Virgil's presence did not go unnoticed. It's been a while since we've had a visitor. Who cares? There's only one of them, and he hardly has any power to him. He's not even worth our attention. What say you, Master Suzaku? Bayako is correct. A single demon with only enough energy for a D rank. I doubt he could even make it past the front door. So this is Maze Castle up close, huh? Virgil snorted. How quaint. He began walking closer to the entrance but only made it a few steps before being approached by a strange creature whose purple body consisted a single eyeball centered between two bat wings. Welcome to Maze Castle. The one who wishes to enter this castle must first be tried by the gate of betrayal, announced the creature. Trial? Asked Virgil, tilting his head from side to side as he looked at the creature. What trial? In answer to the blonde's question, the creature darted over to a switch on the side of the wall, causing the ceiling above them to fall down. Virgil frowned as he raised a hand and held the roof from collapsing on him. I hope this isn't the trial. If so, then I want my refund. This place sucks. This door is very sensitive and quite tricky. It is able to detect the strength of the people supporting it and apply the greatest pressure possible without crushing them outright. The creature said in what Virgil assumed was a smug tone. Just listening to the creature pissed him off. As soon as one person slacks, it will then completely fall to the ground. If one person betrays the rest and escapes, the rest will be crushed. If everyone remains, eventually you will tire and you will all be crushed. Only betrayers have the right to enter this castle. So who's going to live and who's going to die? Ha 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 ha. Oi. Did you forget I am a lone cocksucker? Asked Virgil. The silver-haired cocked his unused hand back. He channeled a little power into his fist, not enough for anyone to see or even feel the energy, but enough for what he wanted. Virgil smashed his fist into the ceiling and unleashed the energy he had channeled into it. There was a small shockwave that was sent out from his fist hitting the ceiling. Cracks and fissures began to form, running along the surface. Then the entire ceiling exploded in a shower of debris. The shocked creature didn't even have time to do more than widen its eyes before Virgil grabbed it in his hand and squeezed. Gross, demon guts, Virgil said after popping the creature like a balloon. He shook the juices and entrails from the crushed creature off of him. He looked around for a moment and grunted. This is so boring. I hope this lame-ass trap isn't conducive to the rest of the castle. He sighed. Whatever. Might as well get this shit over with. He managed to pass the fate of betrayal. Seems this child is stronger than we thought. What should we do, Master Suzaku? Do not worry, Seryu. This only means we'll have a little more entertainment for the time being. The boy is a fool if he thinks he has what it takes to storm this castle on his own. Someone go down and play with him. Ha. This stupid thing thinks he can come in here all by himself and defeat us. I'll crush him where he stands. No. I shall show this fool the true perils of Maze Castle. The mighty Genbu shall bring you his corpse to you immediately. I shall stick his head on a pike at the top of the tower as a message to all those who would oppose us. Ha 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 ha. This place was a maze, Virgil grumbled. He had been walking around the winding passages for over half an hour, searching for a set of stairs that would lead him to the next level with no luck. God damn it. When am I going to get to fight anyone? Looks like someone seems rather eager to die. Ha 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 ha. A raspy voice bellowed out. Finally, I was wondering when one of you idiots would get here, Virgil said. I've been getting terribly bored. You've got some guts, punk. Take the door on your right and I shall show you just how out of your league you are, the voice commanded. The silver-haired grinned. You won't be saying that after I rip your tongue out, exclaimed Virgil as he slammed open the iron double doors. The room was illuminated only by a few torches, while the majority of it remained hidden in darkness. In the back a spiraling stairway leading upwards could be seen. Virgil sighed as he tried to peer into the darkness with no success. He still didn't have a grasp on enhancing his senses as it took far more control than he currently had. Thinking of a better way to get some light, channeled some Yuki into his hands and created a ball of flame. Holding out his hand, the flame flew towards the ceiling, lighting up the rest of the room. Virgil blinked as he got sight of the rather large beast before him. The mammoth-sized beast was composed entirely of rocks. He had turtle-style shell protecting his back, spikes on top of his head, and a long stone tail hanging out behind him. Welcome, trespasser. Ha ha ha, laughed the creature. Virgil had a deadpan look on his face. I am going to be fighting a Ing-Rock? Are you kidding me? I am Genbu of the Four Saint Beasts, Genbu told him, seemingly ignoring the insult. The man was not only a rock, but likely as dumb as one as well. Any last request before I rip you limb from limb? Yeah, how can a beast be a saint? Axed Virgil, and I've heard of pet rocks before, but talking rocks. This is the only set of stairs leading up to the tower. You can defeat me and go up there on your own, or I can drag you there once you've stopped breathing, bellowed Genbu as he smacked his tail against the floor, creating a giant crater. I hope you don't have anyone back home waiting for you. Are there going to be left a widow? That was lame, Virgil said. Such a lame comeback. Can't you do any better than that? You've got guts for such a pathetic creature. Ha ha ha. Genbu laughed as his tail sunk into the ground. Genbu's tail shot out of the ground from behind Virgil, attempting to smack him across the room. Not that the blonde demon shinobi had any intention of letting it. Turning around, Virgil unleashed a blast of energy from his fist, smashing it into the tail and destroying it. The tail reformed and retracted back into his body a moment later. Ha 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 ha. Thanks to my body structure, I can become one with any type of rock, with a little rearranging. I can make any stone one of my limbs. Since this whole chamber is made of stone, I have you surrounded. There is nowhere to run. Virgil's sweat dropped. Did you seriously just reveal your abilities without even being tricked into it? I was right. You really are as dumb as a rock. You have yet to see the full extent of my power. Perhaps then you won't be so cocky, declared Genbu as his entire body sunk into the stone floor. Virgil sighed. I have no desire to play hide and seek with you. The blonde demon shinobi was forced to leap backwards as Genbu's arm shot up out of the ground in the spot where he was previously standing. He backflipped backwards several times as he avoided the rock's arms and tails that attempted to squash him. Virgil frowned. So it looks like I have to draw him out of hiding before I can cut him to pieces. Fine by me. Using pure speed, Virgil began to flash himself around the room, moving so fast that he left after images in his wake. He dodged arms, legs and tails with ease, taunting Genbu all the while. My god, you suck. It's no wonder you were the first one I fought. You're probably so weak the other beasts figured you were expendable. Genbu, frustrated by his inability to crush the blonde and enraged by Virgil's taunts, launched himself out of the ground and into the air. I'll crush you. Finally, Virgil crowed as he crossed his hands and created several black discs of energy. He flung his hands out in an X pattern, launching 10 discs at the same time. 2 of the discs sliced right through his head, 2 cut off his arms, 2 more went through his legs, and 4 of them cut into his torso. The chunks of stone that had formerly been his body fell to the ground with a loud thud. Virgil smirked as he dusted off his hands. Man, that was just sad, Virgil said, shaking his head. If this is the caliber I can expect with these saint beasts, then that dickhead is just making me waste my time. Don't get cocky, punk, shouted Genbu's voice from the pile of rocks. Virgil watched in stunned silence as the pile of stones started shaking as Genbu's body pieced itself back together. Ha 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 ha. You can slice my body up all you like, but it'll just reassemble every time, taunted Genbu as his body reached down and put his head back on. Actually, it makes for a very nice attack. Horizontal boulder explosion. Genbu stretched his arms forward, firing them along with his head as projectiles at Virgil. He frowned as he made his hands into knife edges and slid into a wider defensive stance. He didn't even bother to use his Yuki to slice through the projectile arms and head. destroying them with impunity and making the pieces even smaller than last time. Let's see you recover from that. Virgil exclaimed. This is nothing. Bellowed Genbu as his body reassembled itself again. Surrender and ill make your end swift. You can't defeat me. Horizontal boulder explosion. Shouted Genbu as he started rapid-firing baseball-sized stones. Virgil frowned as he tried to come up with a plan, even as he continued destroying the boulders with well-placed punches. There's got to be a portion of his body that allows him to reassemble himself. The only problem is finding it would be like trying to find a single grain of sand on a beach. Virgil grumbled. This guy wasn't even worth the amount of time the blonde had already wasted on him. Why couldn't he just be simple to defeat like all the other demons? Well, if precision cutting doesn't work, I'll just blast the Ur away. Virgil began channeling more energy into his hand than he had previously, enough that wisps of black energy began leaking off of his hand like steam. You efforts are useless. Just die. Horizontal boulder explosion. Genbu released his entire torso as a barrage of stone projectiles. Naruto dodged the stone projectiles, weaving through them as if they weren't even there. Using the same attack over and over again, have you no originality? Shouted Virgil as he smashed his fist into Genbu. There was a massive explosion of black energy that engulfed the large rock beast. The power Virgil unleashed caused the creature to disintegrate. Virgil looked around and snorted. How did you like that? Virgil began walking towards the stairs, grumbling the entire time. Stupid rock, making me waste so much time. Suddenly a deep grumbling roar shook the tower. Ggrraaahhhhhh. Oi! Who the hell is being so loud? Shouted Virgil. Ggrrraaahhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhh. Throwing debris to the floor, Virgil frowned as he looked around at the passageway, which looked it was beginning to come apart at the seams. Large cracks began forming along the entire corridor as the stone around him crumbled and broke apart. This place doesn't look like it can take too much more of this. Sped up the last bit of the passageway, he made it just as the ceiling collapsed behind him. Dusting himself off, Virgil walked up the final set of stairs and out the final opening of the tower to an outdoor platform. He seemed to be on a wide elevated stone pathway that was led from the tower. When Virgil looked down the sides, he couldn't even see the ground, it was so far down. On the shorter pathway leading from the platform to the main portion of the compound stood the gargantuan white tiger. You must be the second beast, Virgil said, his tone carrying a hint boredom to it. The second saint beast was a huge humanoid white tiger with teal stripes, standing several meters tall. Two large fangs jutted out from the bottom of his mouth and his green mane extended down to his upper back. He sported a green and red fur tunic with leg warmers. The tiger let out a low growl as his tail thwacked against the ground behind him, cracking and denting it. Pest. You will pay for coming this far into my territory, sneered Byako before he let out another roar. This one was not quite as intense as the other one, but it was enough that Virgil had to place his hands on his ears to block out the sound. God damn it, you're loud. Virgil complained. I can't believe such an insignificant insect like you has forced me to come all the way out here. Snarled Byako. Don't be fooled by your victory over that weakling Genbu. This is the end of the line for you. Genbu was nothing. The only reason we didn't kill him ourselves is because he could communicate with the demons in the city by growling through the castle walls. Are all of you saint beasts so damn arrogant? Axed Virgil. If you think you can do better than him, then back up your claim with actions. However, Byako appeared to not be listening to the words as he continued his rant. I am a real beast. It's maddening enough that I've been locked up in this compound for all this time without the taste of human flesh. No prey, no bones, no blood. Then you have the nerve to come in here and think you can just walk all over us. Oh, I am sorry. Did hurt your ickle feelings? Axed Virgil in a baby tone. Poor little tiger. The blonde sneered and his tone became harsher when he spoke again. Stop your bitching and fight me. Insignificant trash. I will tear you apart and eat you myself. Bellowed Byako. I will rip your sorry ass to shreds and feed you to the Fugaki. Virgil sighed. Why was this idiot still talking? Then get on with it already. Ggrraaahhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhh. Byako unleashed another platform to a narrow pathway leading out to a circular area. That roar is no joke, Virgil said. Still, you're going to have to do something better than that to even put a scratch on me. Oh, is that so? Well, don't worry. I am just getting started. Byako plucked some hairs from his mane, started blowing on them. His breath infused them with spirit energy as they suddenly shot out of his hand and into the air, where they transformed into four
green-furred four-legged beasts. The four beasts all landed with a thud in front of Virgil. You're joking. Virgil said as he looked at the furring animals, kittens. You attack me with kittens. What is this? A maze of powerful demons, or an animal shelter? Snapped his face as his face gained a eureka. Look to it. I know. You're opening up a petting zoo, aren't you? You won't be saying that when these kittens rip you to shreds. Bayako roared in anger. How dare this pest mock him? Virgil snorted and lifted up his hand, his fingers stretched out as he pointed them at the beasts. I don't have time to deal with trash like this. 4 black balls of Yuki on the tips of his fingers. As the beasts jumped, Virgil unleashed his Yuki, shooting the 4 energy balls right at the beasts. They struck the creatures, exploding on contact and defeating the beasts with ease.
Smirking, Virgil looked at the shocked Bayako. Is that all you've got?
Bayako growled in frustration. You will not make a mockery me, you are my prey. You make me so angry. I'll kill you myself. Virgil rolled his eyes. Then get your hairy ass down here, kitten, we'll see who kills who. Fool, yelled Bayako as he leapt from his position and landed down on the platform with a massive thud. Virgil let out a whistle of amusement. Would you look at that? You're even bigger up close, but you could stand to cut back on the cold cuts. Those little Yuki balls of yours won't be enough to defeat me. If that's all you've got going for you, you're done for. Bellowed Bayako. Virgil gave Bayako a vicious grin as he held out his hand, palm pointed towards the giant tiger, who said that was all I've got. That was one of weakest attacks. A black orb of Yuki formed in his hand and was soon launched towards Bayako. The ball smashed right into the giant tiger, exploding, sending Bayako and the large slab of stone hurtling down to the ground below. Sorry, but I don't have the time nor the inclination to play with a loser like you, Virgil said as he began walking off. As Virgil continued walk down the passageway, he was forced to stop as Bayako's booming laughter made the entire area shake. Out of instinct he channeled chakra to the bottom of his feet so he wouldn't stumble. Then came the roar. Grrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrr shouted the last bit at the end. He would admit to being impatient. Virgil did not like it when he was annoyed by those weaker than himself who just wouldn't give up. A trait he had gained within as he came more and more into his demonic heritage. As a demon, he not only had a lot more pride than he did as a human, he was also quite a bit more arrogant, a trait that was very common among demons, especially newer ones like him. It was not a particularly good trait, even if a part of it was warrant given Virgil's power. I am not that easy to dispose of, fool. You are turning out to be very interesting prey. Bellowed by Akko. And you're proving to be an extremely annoying little shit, relatively speaking of course, Virgil said. Silly fool, as reward for your battle prowess, I am inviting you into my lair, a room of hell. Declared by Akko. So, you have a room of hell while living in hell? Asked Virgil, scratching the back of his head, his annoyance forgotten and replaced with confusion. How does that make sense? Shrugging the question off. It wasn't like Akko was going to answer anyways. Virgil made his way to and then through a large iron double door that lead to rocky tunnel. The tunnel ended at a massive cavern, where the bottom of said cavern was filled with lava and had several small stone platforms shooting up out of the lava littered the room. In the center of it all was Akko. Well, isn't this a cute little setup? Virgil commented as he looked around the cavern. However, I think you're missing the damned souls that one would find in hell. And where is the boat that's supposed to ferry the souls of the damned? And isn't there supposed to be a Cerberus guarding the gates of hell? You, my friend, obviously don't know what hell is supposed to be like at all if you think this pale imitation compares to hell. Akko let out a booming laugh. You've got some guts, brat. So how shall we do this? Wanna try and come at me or do you want me to come to you? Either way is fine with me. Virgil rolled his eyes, as if that didn't just scream deception right there. Well, it's not like anything you can do will hurt me anyways. Alright, kitty cat, let's rock. Virgil leapt into the air, flinging two black Yuki discs at Akko that sailed through the air with a loud buzzing noise. Akko didn't seem worried however as he clasped his throat with both hands, and started the beginning of what appeared to be another stone-shattering roar. However, a surge of energy pulsed around his body and he fired a green energy blast laced with black lightning from his mouth. The blast smashed into the energy discs and vaporized them. Virgil was forced to quickly jump to another platform, as the one he landed on was also destroyed by the blast. The thing that got Virgil's attention was the platform wasn't just destroyed, it disintegrated. You like it? Asked Bayako with a smirk. That's my tiger scream blast. It turns everything it touches into a pile of ashes. It's not bad, Virgil admitted, but it's still pathetic. What? Bayako roared in anger. Yeah, that was a pussy blast, Virgil said. He grinned as he held up his hand and more energy began to coalesce into his hand. Though I suppose I shouldn't expect much from a pussycat like you, let me show you how a real demon uses his Yuki. Virgil fired a ball of black and red energy from his hand. The ball was smaller than the last one he had sent, with a diameter of only 3 inches. It looked a lot more compressed than his energy ball. It crackled with energy, the discharge of which tore up several of the pillars it passed as it flew over towards the large cat. It was too fast for Bayako to dodge, and not for lack of trying, as even he had reason to fear the amount of energy that attack was emitting. The ball of compressed Yuki smashed right into his face. The results were near instantaneous as the ball of energy exploded, crackling with red power that looked almost like a surge of electricity being discharged into the air. Bayako's body fell down with a heavy thud, its entire head missing and the flesh at the edge of the wound blackening from having been burnt so badly. Bayako has fallen, master. Virgil walked up a spiraling set of stairs, a frown on his face as he thought about the battles he had done so far. They had all been rather disappointing to say the least. He could only hope the next beast was more powerful than Bayako and Genbu had been, exiting the stairs into a circular room with about 15 solid steel doors leading in every direction.
Well, talk about your fork in the road, Virgil mumbled. I was beginning to wonder if this castle would actually live up to its name. I am guessing only one of these doors is the right door, and the wrong ones will lead to certain death. Slightly cliché and a little boring, but I guess it's better than nothing. When he opened the doors, it had a white floor with black ruins all over. The walls were painted blood red, or it was blood. He really did not care. What got his attention was a white gem shaped like a diamond, Sims logo gem, in the middle of the room, which was floating in the air. Thanks for watching.